What is happening out there, Rotoscouts baseball fans? Welcome to a Tuesday show, gang. Looks like folks were getting impatient in the chat. Clint would say, let's go. What's going on, guys? Good to see everybody. Hopefully some successful Monday nights out there. It was a pretty good slate last night. Felt like we were mostly on top of a lot of things. Couple misses, couple key misses, couple disappointments for sure. Sandlin went a little sideways on us as a value pitcher. Clintwood's calling out 30% Landon Roop in the mini-max. But it sounds like he had a good lineup that got through. What was it? Third place, Clintwood? Nice job. Didn't see that one. Congrats. Just reading the chat right now. Cujo's here. Clintwood's here. Pirates Baseball 0202. Andy GPS. Good to see everybody hanging out. Pirates saying, I'll be Homer Simpson tonight and be stacking the Pirates against Burrows, former Pirate. Yeah, Mike Burrows, I like the talent a lot. I think he puts it back together and is good eventually going forward, becomes a good pitcher. I actually really liked him going into Houston, just that smart pitching organization, but been kind of a mess in most of his outings this season. Incredibly targetable spot. I think the Pirates might get a little bit popular along with you there. I don't think that's any kind of secret in that spot, but they definitely look very, very good today. It's an interesting board. We've got a couple launching pads, but we've also got some decent pitching to work with. I'm psyched to get into this one. We've got 11 games, so I'm going to kind of dive on in. Everything's up on the site. Wasn't able to run our game sims process on the back end. Something either going on that I screwed up in the upload file that needs to go up, or something changed on the other guy's back end. Might have beefed up some security on us, not necessarily letting us in to access the data that we need to run those sims anymore. So we'll see what happens there. But our guys over at Fangraphs may have changed things around. Might be too many people trying to tap that back end, and they might have juiced things up on their security a little bit. But we'll see if we can get back in there. But for right now, just old school, talking projections as usual. We'll get something back up on the website, but that might further delay the plan I was talking about yesterday as far as changing around some of the stuff on the stacks board. We'll see. Looks like we've got a little bit of a quorum here, so diving on in. Joey Cantillo looking like a pretty decent target for some Yankees bats. Good pitcher who really hasn't been himself so far this season, or at least wasn't the guy that we saw in decent spots throughout last season. Does have good strikeout stuff. Has a 3.57 ERA, but a 4.54 xFIP under the surface is revealing about the quality at which he's been pitching. Handful of 4-run games. No real meltdown, but a solid few runs in every game that he's in. Most of the games that he's pitched, he's given up a handful of home runs throughout the season. So just looking like a good option on the Yankee side at a 4.63 implied total. They're mid-board. They're not exactly cracking the very top of the board, but they're top 10 on this 11-game slate, so a little higher than mid-board. Cam Schlittler on the bump for the Yanks, relegating the Guardians down to a sub-3 implied total, 2.97. They're not looking good. Cam's looking pretty tremendous. He's been outstanding throughout the season. I believe he's the MLB ERA leader at 1.50 right now. Just a 2.62 xFIP. It's a full run higher, but still tremendous. Nothing bad to say about the kid, knock on wood, that it's all real and he stays healthy. Noah Cameron looking like a target for Reds bats at 4.71 implied runs. Andrew Abbott on the mound on the other side looking like a target for Royals bats, 4.39 implied total. Both those guys are capable of breaking off a decent start here and there, but neither guy has been particularly good. 4.61 ERA for Cameron on the season, but a 3.96 xFIP underneath it, full half run lower. For Andrew Abbott, it's the other way around, 3.88 ERA, but a 4.90 xFIP. Neither guy really giving you the strikeout stuff right now, but Cameron's got a little bit more of it to give. I would be leaning Cameron if I had to take a pitcher in that game, but that one mostly bats with that 9-run total in that ballpark looking really appealing. The Blue Jays and the Braves. Kevin Gausman going for the Blue Jays up against Bryce Elder, who's been overperforming his talent at the peak throughout the season, 2.50 ERA. His xFIP's around 3.83. That's about where we expect Bryce Elder, between there and like a 4.25, somewhere around there. Overperforming, but pitching deep into games by and large. Had a meltdown last start that might have been the start of the return to earth? We don't know. And there's nothing to say that, it's going to all be bad from here. Obviously, it'll just be some normalization along the way. But 3 1/3 against the Red Sox at Fenway the last time out, 5 earned runs, 6 runs total on 9 hits, struck out just 1, walked 1. Ugly start there. Prior to that, had been cruising through a bunch of starts, limiting runs, hadn't given up more than 3 earned runs all season long, only gave up three different times, was finding some strikeout upside. So I think you can go back to the well, but it's a tough opponent, low strikeout Blue Jays. They're at a 3.96 implied total. I think we do lean pitching on both sides, but the fearsome Braves offense is a threat to Kevin Gausman's upside on the other side. They come in at a 4.13 implied total. They're not off the board, but I do lean pitching slightly in that one with a lean toward Kevin Gausman over Bryce Elder. Trevor McDonald's on the mound for the Giants. It's doing interesting things to the Brewers' home run numbers because he's been effective keeping the ball down. Had a meltdown game 2 back, 3 2/3 against the White Sox, gave up 7 earned runs in that one, struck out 4 and walked 1. That came over 3 hits to 18 hitters without a home run allowed. How did he do that? How do you give up 7 earned runs without allowing a home run on just 3 hits and 1 walk? How did those runs even score? There must be a triple in there, or like 2 big run scoring doubles, I guess. That's a funky line without a home run in there. But to the point, he's very, very good. It seems at checking the home run ball, but he's not doing anything to check the Brewers as far as run creation goes, as far as sequencing goes, with which they're spectacular at. 4.65 implied total for them. I think we fire up some Brewers, and then going back the other way, Kyle Harrison on the mound. Another team, sub 3 implied for the Giants. Low-end offense, facing a stellar lefty. Love the upside for Harrison. Don't really like Giants bats in that one. This is a spot where Sandlin burnt us last night going up against the Twins as a potential value play. We're playing a little value, maybe going back the other direction this time with Connor Prielipp going up against the White Sox. Prielipp's been bad for 2 in a row, but he was really good for 5 prior to that. So I'm willing to give him a little bit of leash. I think the strikeout stuff is real. I think he's a very talented upside pitcher who has, frontline potential, but probably going to go through some bumps as he develops. We're still very, very early in the process. But I'm willing to go back to him against the White Sox team. Again, no Murakami definitely diminishes them. We saw that they can create some runs still. They've got some interesting bats in that lineup, but I think he's got the talent to beat them, find some strikeout along the way. So I'm interested in him as a potential spot for some value. And then Davis Martin going back the other direction, facing the Twins offense. He's been pitching pretty well throughout the season. Had a 4-run day 2 starts ago after a string of 1 or no earned runs that was over like 8 starts. And he was finding the strikeout stuff. Young pitcher, kind of unlocking his upside. A little bit interesting there. We know, as we talked about yesterday with Sandlin on the mound, the Twins have struggled throughout the season against right-handed pitching, but they just went off against that kid for 8 runs. So buyer beware. The Rangers against the Cards. Nathan Eovaldi looking pretty terrific on the mound for the Rangers. Don't sleep on Dustin May though. He's been fairly strong in many starts this season. He had a run of 4 straight 6-inning starts. 4 straight, all of which were quality starts. Only 1 was a good strikeout game that came against the Padres. Struck out 7 in that one. The other ones are 2 or 3 strikeouts. Lost it a little bit for 5 1/3 against Pittsburgh. He gave up 4 earned runs, but found 7 strikeouts that day against that high strikeout lineup, and then put the pieces back together for 7 innings against the Brewers in his most recent start. 1 earned run on 2 hits, 9 strikeouts, no walk. So Dustin May's been interesting this year, and it's a gettable enough spot against that Rangers squad. 3.5 implied total on both sides of that one. The Athletics against the Cubs. This one is wreaking havoc on the model right now. The numbers that you have in projections for the Athletics, for their power numbers, which is the point of concern, are already influenced by me going in there and putting my thumb on the scale because of the 12-mile-an-hour headwind that home run balls are going to have to deal with at Wrigley tonight. It's also a cold night at Wrigley. So it's one of those stupid games where the Wrigley weather is working against hitters. Certainly helps out for the pitchers a little bit. It's Gage Jump making his second start of the season, of his career rather, for the Athletics. He had an interesting one in the first one. Struck out 5, walked 1, but gave up 4 earned runs on 9 hits. That was against the Mariners. Plenty of upside plenty of talent. Don't know that we need him against the Cubbies, even on a day where the weather favors pitching. And then Jameson Taillon on the mound for the Cubs. Just a 3.63 implied total for the Athletics. But the point I was trying to make was that there is still a lot of power showing because Jameson Taillon is usually pretty targetable for some home run balls. And those Athletics, even in this situation, difficult to repress as far as the suppress rather, as far as the home run numbers go. So they're still drawing big power numbers, might get one into the seats, but maybe it's a low-scoring game anyway. They're kind of mid-board as far as the stack goes. It's the best I could do with this situation. The Pirates and the Astros, 9-run total there, 4 5s on either side. As mentioned, definitely think we can target some Mike Burrows, and I think we can use the Astros going the other direction, targeting Bubba Chandler, who has mostly struggled this season. A lot of earned runs, a lot of walks, which has been really problematic. We tried to get him 2 starts back against the Blue Jays with the Blue Jays bats, and he gave up 3 unearned runs in that game, but it came on only 2 hits, and he struck out 11 and walked 3. That was by far his best start of the year. I think he's targetable here, but he does have potential. Could come out and surprise us with another day somewhat like that. Astros and Blue Jays, even somewhat comparable teams. So just know that Bubba's got that potential. He is one of the top pitching prospects in baseball, just kind of figuring it out over the first 11 starts here. The Rockies and then again, Burrows has been mostly scuffling throughout the year. He has had a few good ones. He only gave up 2 earned runs over 7 innings at Texas the last time out, but we know we can target that Texas team at home in that pitcher-friendly park. Struck out 6 in that game, but allowed a home run, 2 runs on 5 hits. One before that was 4 earned runs to Minnesota, 7 earned runs to Seattle, and then had a 7-inning shutout at Cincinnati of all places. So entirely unpredictable, but looking like a target. Speaking of targets, the Angels look spectacular today against Tomo Sugano. Once again, pushing tons and tons of home run upside in the model, in game sims, all through everything. I did run the individual game sims, by the way. That data is up on the website. You can still do that. I just can't automate against it right now for whatever reason. Grayson Rodriguez is a wild card on this one. He projects out pretty well. Rockies at a sub-4 implied total, plenty of strikeout, a lot of talent there. It's his 3rd start back. He gave us 5 last time out, 5 2/3 the start before that, 5 strikeouts in each of those with a pair of walks in each game. Just 1 earned run on 2 hits against Detroit at Detroit. Similar, if not more, potential upside in this one. So I think Grayson Rodriguez at a very cheap price on DraftKings that really stuck out from where he is on the board. Kind of interesting for this one. The Diamondbacks very much in play against Eric Lauer. Lauer had a decent day in his first Dodgers start, gave up just 1 earned on 4 hits, struck out 4 and walked 1. That was against Colorado. I think he's going to have his hands full with these Diamondbacks in this hitter-friendly park. And then Michael Soroka, speaking of having your hands full against the Dodgers, kind of problematic. He's been mostly good throughout the season. Overall, pitching a little above his head, but not by all that much. 3.25 ERA, just a 3.42 xFIP, which I like a lot better than xERA. People cite the xERA, it's 4.06, closing in on a full run higher. But xFIP, Sierra, I think like him a little bit better. And I'm kind of there with him. He's finding strikeout stuff, although in the last 2 starts combined, 12 innings and only 5 strikeouts. That was against the Rockies and the Giants. Kind of concerning they didn't find the K against those 2 teams, but mostly has been successful at finding it. I don't think we need to go to him here in a 9.5 run game in a hitter park, 4.91 implied total on the other side for the deadly good Dodgers at the top of the stacks board. Feels unnecessary, but it wouldn't shock me if he had an okay day. He's been good and he is good. And then we round things out with Jonah Tong against the Mariners and Logan Gilbert going for Seattle. Pitcher-friendly park, pitcher-friendly game, 4.09 implied total for the Mariners against the rookie, and then just a 3.5 for the Mets. They're not looking great against Logan Gilbert. Getting back into it over here. So, as I said, Grayson Rodriguez kind of standing out there as an SP2 value. He's 9,000 on FanDuel. I don't think that's crazy inappropriate. Once upon a time, one of the top pitchers and prospect pitchers in baseball, and has just been largely injured. That's really been the issue. Oops. We didn't get him at all last year. He made 20 starts in 2024, made 23 starts in 2023, and that's it. But over those, 4.30 ERA, a 3.74 xFIP, even better. solid 25.5% strikeout rate and 8% walk rate for the career. Those are good numbers. And he's capable of more if he's able to stay healthy, stay on the mound. There's no reason to think that he couldn't go out there and have a day against that Colorado team, at least even if you wanted to consider that a ceiling. I don't think it's crazy. And at 6,500, you could throw that dart just again and again. I think he probably gets popular in that spot on DraftKings. A lot less so on FanDuel, but he does kind of stand out just for where he's projected against the top of the board for being significantly cheaper. I will use him on FanDuel for sure. Everybody up at the top of the board is interesting. This is a good pitching slate, nice and deep. Everybody up here is appropriately and similarly priced, with Cam Schlittler leading the way. The offset, I think, on FanDuel, 10-9 for Davis Martin. Even though it's a good spot, even though he's been pitching well, a little bit less faith maybe, but also a lower projection, just a lower-end strikeout pitcher than Schlittler, Harrison, Gilbert at his best, Eovaldi at his best. So I do have an issue with that price. I think he's more in the 9,098, like Bryce Elder kind of range, maybe. He's more a Bryce Elder than he is a Cam Schlittler. 97 on DraftKings kind of plays the same way. More expensive than Gilbert, more expensive than Eovaldi. I don't see it. I think he's usable. That probably does render him lower owned, like we've talked about when these misfit pitchers come in at, or when these pitchers come in at misfit prices. He's not a misfit. He's fine. I think. I don't know. Might be a total weirdo in the clubhouse. Maybe he is a misfit. Who knows? But Schlittler, Harrison, either one of those options looks tremendous. Again, both those teams are checked down to under 3 runs in Vegas. I do think you could take a nice little discount on Harrison and have just as much upside on FanDuel. Probably a lot of people going to do that. 10-5, 10-2, they're a little bit closer on DraftKings. But either direction, you're taking an outstanding young pitcher against an entirely gettable team. Logan Gilbert hasn't been perfect this season, but he's been good. That's a low-end Mets squad that's really been struggling through the year. It's a pitcher-friendly ballpark. I like the upside, and particularly at 9,000 on DraftKings, I think that's effective against the top of the board as far as the pitching prices go. And Eovaldi, it's kind of the same deal. 10-4, 95 against a frisky but not overly experienced, not incredibly deep and talented St. Louis team. Eovaldi, when he's going right, is among the best righties in baseball. Excellent run limiter. Plenty of upside for Eovaldi to at least go out there, put up a solid quality start, and he works deep into ball games typically too. Elder, as mentioned, just kind of pitching over his head, but 8,200 is not really paying much of a tax for it. I wouldn't have been shocked on opening day if Bryce Elder had popped up 8,200. He's about that kind of a guy. I'd rather pay less, but that's an effective price for him. 98 on FanDuel is a little bit high, but he has been better this year. It's just a bad opponent, low strikeout Blue Jays opponent. They've got some interesting bats in that lineup. I prefer Kevin Gausman on the other side of the matchup for 94, 87, even going up against a tougher Braves lineup that has been better by and large. Connor Prelip again, 74 on FanDuel, 7,000 on DK. I do think he's an interesting value pitcher. We've gone to him. We've gotten burnt in the last 2, but we had some good starts prior to that. Kid's got good strikeout stuff. There's no Murakami in the White Sox lineup. There are a lot of good arguments in favor of Connor Prelip. I am the same guy who was here advocating for David Sandlin yesterday. By the way, I completely forgot to mention, I think I focused like twice on his walks yesterday with Sandlin, and I completely forgot to mention that I love his fastball. He throws the ball like, he hit 99 in the first start. I'm not sure where he topped out yesterday, but a lot of justification for that one yesterday. It just didn't work out for us. But to back up my own plays, I had him in the lineup for my dynasty team in the 2-start week yesterday. Gave up 8 runs on me, kind of hurt, and I have Connor Prelip in that same lineup for this start today. So I ride my own plays in multiple formats. I will definitely use Connor Prelip on FanDuel today. Love the price, love the upside. Dustin May, as I mentioned in the rundown, 8,900 is perfectly fair on FanDuel. He's been pitching to around that level, and especially when they have Bryce Elder at 98, Davis Martin at 10-9, that's a fair to good price for Dustin May against the Rangers. And 68 is a downright bargain on DraftKings. That's probably a better value option than Connor Prelip at 7. It's competitive with Grayson Rodriguez against the Rockies at 65 because Rodriguez hasn't been on the mound all that much, right? He missed all of last year. He's made 3 starts in the show this year. So I do think there's plenty of upside for Dustin May there, but there's obviously a little bit of separation as far as the projection, more strikeout potential for the Rockies. Trevor McDonald wouldn't stun me if he had a decent day, if he's keeping the ball in the yard. I just think that Milwaukee team against a young pitcher who, kind of had a downside day in the last one, with their ability to sequence, their ability to score a ton of runs without the home run ball, I don't love the spot, but it wouldn't shock me if he had an effective $7,700 day. I don't know that I love it at 83 on FanDuel. Wish it was a little bit cheaper, than maybe I could argue for it, because he does have the ability to pitch deep into the game, which he showed us in the first couple starts. Burrows at 76-72. We talked about the Pirates as an offense against Mike Burrows. I wouldn't call you crazy for throwing some Burrows darts at the Pirates at these prices, especially on DK. I think he's in the bargain bin at 72. He's got more than enough talent. There are more than enough strikeouts in that Pirates lineup. He's just got to get through a couple times. I think it's a very high danger spot. There's a lot of volatility there. You're not safe. That's saying the same thing 3 different ways, hopefully to make the point, but he's very cheap and he's better than he's been. Andrew Abbott, I just don't want to go to that ballpark in Cincinnati for anybody, and especially not for Andrew Abbott, and also not for Noah Cameron, who projects even worse further down the board. It's just pretty firm nose on both sides. At least Abbott's 63, Cameron's 73 for a lighter projection. If you need the absolute bargain bin dart, 63, it's there. But honestly, I'd probably dip down another half point of projection here and look at Gage Jump, maybe even Bubba. Probably not Lauer, probably not Tong, although 55 is awfully cheap for Tong in that pitcher park. I think you're just maxed 4 and change from Tong. Maybe he completes 5. If he gets through 5, he's probably pitched well enough to pay that 55 off. But I think Jump, maybe at 6,000, is your interesting extreme bargain bin guy. Just because the pitcher-friendly environment that he's going to be pitching in, I mentioned cold night, wind blowing in, et cetera, et cetera. Cubby's been struggling lately. Reminds me, XX Cubs fan 23, not struggling lately. He's been killing it on FanDuel. He sponsored a bunch of free weeks. There's still some remaining. Scrolling across the bottom of your screen, details. Promo code is CubsWin, all one word, capital C, capital W. Get your free first week on a weekly subscription over at Rotoscouts.com. So check it out. I won't harangue you too much yet. We'll get into that. We have an 11-game slate to talk through. So Jump, again, one of the top pitching prospects. He's just got a really tough Cubs lineup. When all those guys are going right, that's one of the better lineups in baseball. They just have not been going right. So I think that's an interesting one from the bargain bin. And then there's a lot of just question marks going down through the rest of these guys. Tyon, on the other side of that game, is capable of putting together a decent enough day. There are a few Ks in that A's lineup. He's also going to benefit from the weather. So maybe that's another consideration. I don't like either side of the Reds game. Jonah Tong, don't know what the depth is going to look like. Joker's over here in support. Let's get some lineups in. Phillies, Orioles, it's the other slate. All right, there's the Yanks, Royals, Braves, Astros. We got a few. An important one here to start out, Yankees. Speaking of starting out, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel. Had a ton of people come through yesterday. I think yesterday's early show was our highest view count on the season. Appreciate all the likes. Appreciate everybody hanging out here. Tell your friends. Trying to grow the channel a little bit. Pirate saying Timu Skeens is Bubba Chandler's nickname. Pirates wants to know Langeliers and Austin Riley or William Contreras and Max Muncy from the Dodgers. Just as random pairings for, are we talking DFS? Are we talking home runs? What are we talking there, Pirates? Meech is here. Good to see you. Travis Wyndham. Jake likes Davis Martin on DK and wants to bump him up. What was that price? He was fine on DK, right? 97. Yeah. Especially if this knocks the ownership down a little bit by comparison to like Gilbert, Evaldi, certainly those guys. That's fine. I just think it's bumpy on FanDuel at 10-9. But again, he has been pitching very, very well, and that's a targetable Twins team. We'll get to that game in a minute. That one's Well, we'll get to that game in like an hour. Let's get started. No Judge in the Yankees lineup. Well, that's important, as Jake points out. I would have caught that. I promise. I hadn't actually looked over there yet. I just saw that it got confirmed in that update. I probably would have noticed that there was no Aaron Judge. Major downgrade, obviously, for the Yanks. That'll have an impact, at least by a little bit, on their implied total. That said, I think they still look decent going up against Cantillo here. 21.2% strikeout rate, but he's walking too many against that low number at 12.7% walks. That's a above average walk rate, or worse than average walk rate, I should say, and a lower than average strikeout rate, or right around the average. 3.57 ERA, but he's underperforming. He's overperforming his xFIP, his Sierra, at 4.54, at 4.70. Inducing weak and medium contact, just fine. 2.86% home run rate, not really a problem. It's 58 innings over 12 starts now. Last year, over 13 starts and 95 and a third with some work out of the bullpen. He was just a little bit better. A lot sharper on the strikeouts, 26.9%. Fewer walks, but still a high number, kind of a problematic strikeout minus walk rate, or just, moderately effective. But he was inducing more swinging strikes by a little bit, 12.1%. It's not a huge difference. Again, there were negligible differences here. Pitched to a 3.21 ERA, 3.66 xFIP, 3.83 Sierra. So again, a little bit better around the edges. Was similarly talented at inducing weak and medium contact, missing barrels, keeping the ball in the yard. So there is a talented pitcher here. He just hasn't been premium version as far as DFS scoring, 7,500, 8,200. Yanks diminished by not having Aaron Judge, but we do have a lot of low strikeout Yankees in here at the moment. Paul Goldschmidt, 18.9%, relatively low over the last couple years. Cody Bellinger, low strikeout, mid-teens throughout his entire career, 13.1% so far this year. Ahmed Rosario has been a fairly low strikeout hitter, multiple years below the league average, right now 19.6%. Trent Grisham, at this point in this year, 17.9%, starting to get a little bit real. Mid-20s previous seasons, we'll see where it lands. And then there are more strikeouts as you go down the lineup with guys like Volpe, Jazz, Austin Wells, certainly can strike out down there. Caballero, another guy, 18.5%, starting to get a little bit more real over 173 plate appearances, but 26.5, 27.5, 23.6 the last few years. So, truth probably somewhere in between. So there are a few Ks here for Cantillo. We know that the Yankees can go a little bit sideways in good spots with no Judge in the lineup, even though he's been a little bit up and down over the last few weeks, which might be kind. He's been good, but not Aaron Judge. Has a big impact. I would say that makes the Cantillo dart play on DraftKings at 75 at least a little bit more interesting, but it's still a bad spot. 82 on FanDuel, I probably still don't use it at all. Cam Schlittler, absolutely tremendous, near 30% strikeout, which is 4.7% walk, a 14.1% swinging, 1.50 ERA, again, 2.62 xFIP, 2.77 Sierra. So, yeah, that's exceptionally low and not entirely real, but these numbers, even if they are, you'd be talking about leading Cy Young candidate, even if he was pitching to a 2.62 ERA. 0.85 whip, not giving up anything in terms of premium contact, some of the best stuff in the league. Kid is absolutely outrageous. On the Guardian side, going up against him, good luck. Sub 3 implied total. I do like Travis Bazzana quite a bit. I think he's started out his career really well at 294, 389, 450. He's hit 3 home runs and stolen 8 bags already in just 126 plate appearances. Sub 20% strikeout, drawn an interesting 11.9% walk rate. The home runs probably not necessarily outliers, but I think he's going to be more a 12 to 15 home run type of a guy as we go forward, with a handful of stolen bases, just good hit tool and on-base skills. I say that partly because, pretty limited as far as the contact goes so far, some circumstantial home runs more than anything else. 3.73 WOBA with a 3.36 xWOBA under the surface, but creating runs at a great pace. That's a solid xWOBA, even if he does regress a little bit as far as the output goes. Would definitely be a big part of Guardians' plans if you're going there, but there's really not a lot of good reasons to go Guardians here. Jose Ramirez at 52.37, come down on price a little bit. He's only at 228, 341, 397. That's a lackluster slash line for him, but he's hit 8 home runs, stolen 20 bases already. There's a lot of good going on, and he's got a 369 xWOBA under the 325 actual. He'll be just fine by the end of the season. Chase DeLauder, interesting upside. The power surged early. He's up to 7 home runs in an awful hurry, and then has hit, I think, 1 since like April. But 268, 345, 434, holding together a good slash line. 345 weighted on base with a 351 xWOBA. A lot of very real interesting stuff going on. 10.8% strikeout and walk rate. Kind of ideal in the 3 spot right now, and he's fairly affordable in the outfield. Rhys Hoskins, a lot of power upside, 12.6% barrel, 44.8% hard hit. Same thing with Kyle Manzardo, 13-3, 41.8 from the left side. They've got 5 home runs apiece. Neither guy's hitting for average. Right now, Hoskins is drawing a much better walk rate, getting on base more consistently. 108 WRC plus to the 88 that Kyle Manzardo's put up. But if I'm choosing between them at first base, for 500 less, give me the kid with a little bit of lefty thunder in Yankee Stadium if I'm just hunting for bad plays in the Guardians lineup, or the best possible plays in a bad spot from the Guardians lineup, I guess I should say. But Hoskins and Manzardo on FanDuel at 28 and 26. If I'm stacking up Guardians, pretty good argument to be made for putting both of those guys in, using up first base and util. I don't know who I want to take out from the top. That's kind of the problem, though. You're definitely putting Jose Ramirez in there. I probably forgo the Bazana share, much as I would want to fill second base from this play. 3,500 is a lot to ask facing Cam Schlittler. So I would probably go Ramirez and then just down through DeLauder and those two as a 4-man there, right there. It's 3,050 a piece. It's not ideal because it's not super cheap to take that contrarian option against Schlittler. But I think those are the 4 guys I would want most here. Daniel Schneemann at 3,027 with multi-position eligibility, 4 home runs on the board, 3 stolen bases. Does have the ability to drive the ball from time to time, is another lefty bat with a little bit of positional flex. He belongs in the conversation if you're building with the Guardians for DFS, but there's really not a ton of good reasons to do it. Petey Halpin's barreled a few balls in 31 plate appearances, absolutely nothing to show for it. His WRC plus is 8. 92% worse than average so far. 2,200, 2,300 for Patty Bailey. He's just in there to pitch frame for this pitching staff, which should have a big, big impact. Anything you get from Bailey on the offensive end is just gravy. He's hit 2 home runs, but slashing 147, 210, 220 on the season. Brian Rocchio, I have to stop myself from saying he's just here for defense. That's not entirely true this year. 293, 374, 415. 127 WRC plus, 4 home runs and 9 stolen bases. Hasn't exactly improved his premium contact at all. The hard hit rate's in fact gone down. Improved the strikeout rate, drawing more walks. I can get behind maybe a little bit of the on base just based on volume of contact and drawing those walks. But I think the power surge is entirely unreal. I don't think he's going to hit 293 all year. 355 weighted on base, but a 319 xWOBA supports the point. You're not paying any kind of tax on DraftKings anyway at 31. 3,000 on FanDuel, you're paying a little bit of tax on that. I don't love that option, especially not against Cam Schlittler. 9-hitter. It's just a terrible spot. The judgeless Yankees. He's not hurt, right? That's been my fear, that this last month of underperformance has been related to injury. Hopefully it's just a regular night off. Yeah, it's just a night off. Started the first 59 games in a row. Give him a breather. Let him figure things out. So, not hurt. Knock on wood. Still tremendous upside for the Yanks. We don't really worry about Ben Rice or Cody Bellinger in any kind of lefty-lefty. Trent Grisham has power upside for sure in this ballpark, so you can still go to that option. Jazz Chisholm, big-time lefty bat who could steal a base. He's up to 6 home runs, 239, 314, 385. Kind of hidden down here. Got that third base eligibility on FanDuel, which is nice. You can flex him around the board a little bit. Still only 31 there. 45 on DK, a little bit discounted on Jazz. The prices are coming, back up a little bit, commensurate with the performance coming up a little bit. Still just a 287 xWOBA under his 313 actual. Ultimately, still has a long, long way to go to get to last year's quality, but we've seen signs of life from Jazz. Talked about it a bunch at the beginning of the season with the cold snaps that we were in. Just has an impact on his play, it seems, and he's talked about that too. So nice and warm in 73 degree day here in the Jersey area. Jose Caballero at 32 at 29. Nice and cheap down the bottom of the lineup for the positional flex, for the talent. He's hit 4 home runs to the point he's stolen 14 bases. A lot of correlated scoring because he gets on base somewhat effectively. Just a 318 on base right now, but he's hit 263. There's upside there. 100 WRC plus on the nose at league average, but a very substandard 283 xWOBA to be concerned about. Doesn't exactly hit the ball hard, but a lot of balls in play, and he's just interesting for DFS, especially when he's not striking out like he used to. Austin Wells, you're just looking for the one good batted ball event. Right now, 6.3% barrel, a little bit lighter than he's been the last couple of years. 46.3% hard hit rate, though, is actually up over the last few years. It's resulted in a 178, 296, 274 slash line. 4 home runs on the board is nice, but it's been a little bit lacking as far as the output. He is drawing a 14.5% walk rate, but he's only getting on at a 296 clip, which is problematic. I think he comes around eventually. There's not a ton to really say that, but he does have a 309 xWOBA, still below average, but significantly better than the 264 actual. So eventually we should see a little bit more output from Wellesley. He's just a dart throw, a lot more important on the DraftKings slate, but playable on FanDuel for the home run upside, 5.29 in the model. Nobody on the Yankees, notably, over 10, though. You don't see the Bombers come in like that all that often. Ben Rice at 9.17 leads the team. He's got leads the team in the model. He's got 17 on the board. Believe that's tied with Judgy. 3.52 ISO, a 409 xWOBA. He's been absolutely outrageous. He's the key Yankees bat with no Judge here. Goldie has been really, really good and excels against left-handed pitching. Not miscast at all in the 2 spot against this pitcher. 12.6% barrel, 47.1% hard hit. 6 home runs on the board, a 354 on base. Has played his way into more regular playing time against righties as well. Cody Bellinger, again, don't sweat the lefty on the mound. He's excellent against same-handed pitching. Solid slash line overall, creating runs like crazy. The power kind of comes and goes with Cody. He's hit 8 home runs. Doesn't exactly get the meat of the bat, but succeeds for power when he needs to. So plenty of upside for Cody. Ahmed Rosario is another player who's been super interesting this year against lefties specifically. 6 home runs on the board in 97 plate appearances, a 12.5% barrel rate. Most of his damage has come against lefties in a big way for DFS scoring too. He's hit multiple home runs. He has 2 multi-home run games, right? I know he's got at least one. Came fairly recently. Yeah. 2 home runs on the 26th. The 2 home runs back on April 7th. I knew there was another one in there. That one was against... Oh, that one was actually against Savali. So that was against a righty. Massive upside for the Yankees, even with no Judge. Anthony Volpe, I kind of skipped over. He's cheap, 36-34. Mix and match level talent, overpriced on FanDuel, I'd say, just fine on DraftKings. Can definitely be a part of any Yankees stack, but I don't love occupying shortstop with that player. And at that price, there's better ways to build with the 4-man site. Schlittler, still Yankees bats, but they're a little diminished. Cantillo and Guardians bats down at the bottom there. Lane Thomas had a day yesterday. Glad we focused on him during the show and that I didn't get him in my lineup that had the Royals. There he is right there, batting leadoff, as was just called out in the chat by Pirates Baseball a few minutes ago, actually. Thomas, 22-24. 2 home runs, 3 stolen bases, a player who was very, very interesting a couple years ago. Obviously slow to get things started, over 130 this year, but tons of upside against the lefty, tons of upside in this ballpark, multi-category contributor. Was getting on base for the season at a 354 clip even before yesterday's interesting game, but hopefully on the rise. We're looking for a little bit of premium contact edge like in the old days. Right now, he's not striking out. He's drawing an interesting walk rate that supports that on base. So good option in the leadoff role. Hitting ahead of Bobby Witt Jr. is always a good spot as well. Bobby's the most important piece from this Royals lineup. 55-36, not inappropriate. 9 home runs, 17 steals. Picture of excellence. Everyone else in this lineup has struggled. He's the only player with a positive WRC plus in this confirmed version of the lineup, but we know that Sal Perez is better than he's been. He's hit 9 home runs. He does have an 8.6% barrel, 40.2% hard hit. Those numbers are adequate, but they're way, way down for him. Overall, just a 66 WRC plus, but we can unlock the power potential against this pitcher. 10.04 in the home run model. This ballpark supports plenty of power upside. You just keep going back to Sal, and the price has gotten really cheap where you need catchers. Starling Marte, mix and match talent at cheap pricing in the outfield, hitting cleanup today. Not your typical type of cleanup hitter, more of a hit for average, get on base, steal me a bag, provide correlated scoring type. ahead of Vinny Pasquantino. That kind of works as a pairing. Vinny's really cheap at 36.28. 5 home runs, but otherwise really struggling at 213, 303, 336, and a 77 WRC plus. We just kind of hope that he can turn it back on again. We saw him struggle last year, as I keep on saying, but it didn't last quite this long. 25-25 across sites. Nick Lofton, interesting enough at second base if you're going to this Royal squad. Second, third, and outfield, any one of those spots kind of works if you're going to him on FanDuel. Just a mix and match type player, but an interesting enough correlated scoring spot in the lineup. And hitting between Vinny Pasquantino and Jack Caglianone kind of floats his value as well. Caglianone also had a big day yesterday after we highlighted him. 6 home runs on the board, over 200 plate appearances. He's at just 242, 310, 401 with a 97 WRC plus, but remains super interesting based on the premium contact, like we talked about yesterday, and based on a 341 XWOBA under the 317 actual. Fire away with Jack Caglianone shares against this pitcher, even lefty-lefty. Tyler Tolbert, Michael Massey. Tolbert, cheap down bottom. You get a righty bat. Why not at 2,000 in your third or fourth Royal stack? You mix them in. 40% hard hit rate over his massive 7 plate appearances. Last year, he made 57 plate appearances. He was all right. 280, 321, 380, 1 home run, stole 21 bags. That's downright interesting. A little bit of speed bonus for super cheap price. Second base eligible as well on the FanDuel board. Not dead in the water at the bottom of the lineup. Michael Massey, a little bit of a mixer, does have a 10.4% barrel and 42.7% hard hits. The best he's been over 125 plate appearances on the year, 5 home runs. Lefty-lefty, if memory serves, doesn't help Massey all that much. I'm not going to look him up just because he's hitting 9th and we are short on time on an 11 gamer, but lighter option down toward the bottom of the lineup. He's very, very cheap. Second base, has second base and outfield. A lot of options through those positions on FanDuel. I skipped over Andrew Abbott because I just don't think you use him. Some 15.5% strikeouts, 10% walk, 3.88 ERA, but a 5 xFIP and Sierra essentially. Just not a usable option with the Royals at 4.39. And Noah Cameron with the Reds at 4.71 in this ballpark. Pitching to a 20% strikeout. Again, there's a little bit more strikeout potential with Cameron. The Reds certainly provide plenty of strikeout upside. But he's pitched to a 4.61 ERA, a near 4 xFIP, a 4.09 Sierra, allowing a lot of premium contact and too much for this ballpark too. Should feed some upside for power for the Reds. 10% barrels, 44.2% hard hits, 90.1 miles an hour of exit velo. We're over the line in all 3 of those marks on a typically fly ball trajectory. He's pretty lucky to be at just a 2.17% home run. So this number could get worse against these numbers so far in this game as we go on. Dane Myers is interesting from the top of the Reds. He's very, very cheap. He's hit 3 home runs, stolen 2 bags, getting on base at a 354 clip, creating runs, 111 WRC plus, 10.7% barrel rate to go with it over his first 96 plate appearances. That's a talented enough right-handed hitter to throw at Noah Cameron in the leadoff role, hitting ahead of bats that we want to get to, like the scorching hot J.J. Bleday, who cracked his 10th home run of the season last night in just 133 plate appearances. 5,300, 4,000. He's priced like a superstar. I don't think he's this player, but maybe I'm wrong. Maybe he actually just sustains this ridiculous breakout run that he's been on. 409 xWOBA under a 445 actual. There's 40 points of room to come down, and he'd still be at a 409. It's ridiculous. 183 WRC plus. Sal Stewart's been really good. 4,800, 3,700. He's hit 12 home runs, stolen 10 bags. He's getting on at a 354 clip as well. 360 weighted on base with a 370 XWOBA, but he's got a little bit more to give us too. 14.4% barrel rate. Nice and affordable too. Under 5,000 on DK. 37 is a little bit different price-wise on FanDuel. The big issue, as I talked about yesterday, positional blocker with Eugenio Suarez. We got to get that figured out. 48.39. You get a little price and ownership difference between the two. 3,700 apiece. You can have them both on FanDuel, or you can play the price and popularity game. Right now, Stewart probably gets a little bit more popular than Gino does, which is unfair. Gino's got massive power, much more proven than Sal Stewart. 4 home runs on the season. Otherwise, kind of light at the plate. 227, 306, 370, and 87 WRC plus. But he'll put it together. Gino's going to go on a tear. He had a home run over the weekend. We might see it start soon. 2,700 is very, very cheap. 39, same thing at third base. Spencer Steer's been interesting. Making really interesting contacts. So is Tyler Stevenson. That's usually the case with Stevenson. That's a catcher you can just pick off, as I always talk about. He's always cheap. 3,000 on DK today. Lots of premium contact. Doesn't hold down any kind of slash line. You're just looking for the one good bat at ball event that gets into the seats from time to time. But Steer gives you a little bit more than that. He's hit for quality. Hasn't struck out drawn a little bit of walk, 272, 348, 431 slash, 7 home runs, 117 WRC plus. It's an interesting player with second base eligibility on both sites, which is ideal for dropping him in. That lets you combine Reds with so many other teams, not having to occupy first base, outfield, something like that for a bat like Steer. Blake Dunn, Matt McClain down the bottom of the lineup. Dunn, kind of a mixer, 73 pretty decent plate appearances, righty bat against the lefty, plenty of potential, but just another outfielder type talent. Matt McClain has more than that as far as counting stats, as far as fantasy stats go. It's been another rough 226 plate appearances, though. 5 home runs and 7 steals is great, but the slash line's ugly. 75 WRC plus is problematic, and when Ellie gets healthy, he might lose his job to the kid above him. They brought Edwin Arroyo back today at the dead min price on both sites once again. We talked about him yesterday. Hotshot rookie for this team that got the promotion with Ellie going down. It was only a matter of time, though. He was absolutely on fire at the minor league level. Had 11 home runs when they called him up, bunch of stolen bases. Kid's a multi-category contributor. Not the greatest debut. He went 1 for 4. He scored a run. He was, gave us a couple fantasy points, but not what we were looking for. Going right back to the well with that kid at that price. Easy enough way to fill shortstop at the dead min price on both sites. Love the option. And he was 6% owned on FanDuel yesterday. Probably doesn't get that much more. Reds bats, Royals bats, Noah Cameron, Andrew Abbott. If you had to roster pitching, it would be Noah Cameron, but you don't. Blue Jays, sub-4 implied total up against Bryce Elder. Again, Elder overperforming, 2.50 ERA, a near 4 xFIP, a 4.03 Sierra. Those are the real numbers. That's the real Bryce Elder. But he's been good at inducing weak and medium contact, missing barrels, keeping the ball in the yard. He makes his lack of stuff work for him. As I've mentioned a few times, he talked to Greg Maddux about, what was your secret? Maddux apparently told him, and he's put it to work, and it's working. I don't know that he's able to sustain it right now. He's just locating really, really well. That wasn't the nature of Greg Maddox's game. Greg Maddux, by the way, if you never saw him pitch, go look up some of the numbers. Ludicrous. So good. Working with stuff that people would tell him that he wouldn't be a major league talent these days. Like with stuff like that kind of velocity, he made it work. Kevin Gausman, 87.94, looks tremendous. 3.13 ERA, 3.38 xFIP, 23.6% strikeout, a 4.3% walk. Fire away. There are strikeouts available in this Braves lineup, 22.8 for the confirmed lineup so far this year. Same collection of hitters last year, 24.4, 22.9 the year before that. So at best league average, a little bit more than that. And Gausman's a little bit got the potential to find a little bit better than the sub 1 and 4, between 1 and 4, 1 and 5 that he's at right now. 11.8% swinging strike rate, has had better years for strikeout rate, 8,700, even in a high danger spot with the Braves coming in at above a 4-run total. We've seen them quite a few times this year higher than that. There's a lot of dangerous bats in this lineup, but I got enough faith in Gausman. I think we've all been there with this pitcher on the downside as well. So I would probably hedge off a few Braves positions because we've got guys like Ronald Acuna, Michael Harris, who's been on fire this year, Matty Olson, certainly, and then a cast of thousands going down the lineup. On the Blue Jays side for bats, George Springer, we've talked about the problematic 175 plate appearances to get the season started. Talked about the great season he had last year, bouncing back from a problematic previous season the year before that. He's 36. We don't really know where this is headed. That might have been one last good year in the sun for George Springer. It might be adios. But I think as long as the Blue Jays keep rolling him out at the top of the lineup, you can't help but play him if you're going to the Blue Jays. 45.29. He's gotten cheaper on FanDuel. 45 is okay on DraftKings. Does lead the eye toward Nathan Lukes at just 27.26, though, if he's hitting second. That's kind of interesting. 301, 350, 384. At least he's getting on base ahead of Laddie, ahead of the power bats. Kind of interesting. And maybe if you're just opting for the cheaper play, can't really fault you. Lukes has proven to be good at getting to first base. He's miscast in the 2 spot. At worst, they should flip those 2 hitters, but it should be probably, if they want Lukes up top, should probably be Lukes, Vladdy, and then whatever. Pirates calls out 5 home runs in the past 4 games for Ronald Acuna. Yeah, Acuna's finally catching fire. Welcome to the season, Ronald Acuna Jr. Cap says, me, Acuna, Kurtz going for the monies. Just watch that win situation with Kurtz. It's the one thing I'd throw in there. Josh Hader activated from the IL as expected. Fantastic. Key piece of the dynasty team. Need him. Gave back some of my ERA advantage with Scooble on the IL with my mix and match pitcher. Sandlin burnt me last night. That one hurt. But some of my good pitchers have been problematic this year. Anyway, you guys don't care about that. Maybe some of you do. Vladdy's 48, 31. I'll continue to take the discount. He's slashing 298, 392, 385. At a point, we don't care that much that he's not hitting for the power that was expected that, he used to. 3 home runs on the board. He's got a 362 xWOBA under a 346 actual. He's got a 120 WRC plus. This is a super valuable player, and the most important bat in their lineup going up against a gettable pitcher. I'm taking the option if I'm going Blue Jays. No need to go Blue Jays, though. They're not exactly busting through the top of the stacks board at a sub-4 total against a capable version of Bryce Elder. Then we get to Dalton Varsho, mix and match piece, but a lefty bat with a little bit of power, 5 home runs, 4 steals. Solid on base, good contributor this year, but we know he can crater around the slash line. Probably overperforming overall, 330 weighted on base, but just a 308 xWOBA. So the one guy on performing better on the surface, I think, than the expected. Kaz Akamoto, a lot of power upside, a lot of premium contact so far in his first 238 plate appearances, a dozen home runs, a little bit lacking in the slash line as well, but a 103 WRC plus, a slightly better 328 xWOBA under is exactly average 320 actual. The interesting bat down lineup, 32-27 for Jesus Sanchez, a guy who we've talked about throughout the season for just throughout his career, hitting the ball very effectively. He's lost a little bit in barrels this year, but he's gained a little bit in hard hit. He's certainly gained as far as hitting for average 287, 324, 461. Very effective 182 plate appearances. Typically gets in on the strong side of platoon against right-handed pitching. 6 home runs on the board. We could see more if he finds his way back to those levels of barrel. Low strikeout, low walk rate, so a lot of balls in play. Really interesting bat. 343 xWOBA under his 339 actual. We might not have Sanchez in the lineup, by the way. He was in the outfield. If you didn't see it the other day, a fan threw a ball thinking it was a kid, thinking he wanted to play catch with him, and he wasn't paying attention, hit him in the wrist, came out of the game with a bruise. But X-rays were negative, so should be back eventually pretty soon, if not today. Ernie Clement, mix and match guy that you can move around for a cheap price, hit tool focused. Andres Jimenez, a little bit of pop so far this year. Actually, Ernie's got 5 home runs as well. He's slashing 300, 322, 449. Jimenez has 6 with 6 stolen bases and a little bit of an outburst. What you don't want probably is both those guys in your lineup. Either one of them can round out a stack just fine. And then Brendan Valenzuela is just a cheap catcher. He's got 4 home runs on the board, not much more than that. As mentioned, Acuna on fire, 7 home runs, 12 stolen bases. He's just this good. I mean, he's not going to hit a home run in 4 out of every 5 games going forward, or five home runs in every 4 games going forward, whatever it was. But this is a superstar just getting back to himself. So absolutely interesting at the top of the board, even with Gausman on the mound. And Gausman can give up the long ball from time to time. He's managing it very effectively this season, but a fly ball trajectory type pitcher that could be victimized by an Acuna. 9.65 in the home run model to lead the team today. 6.47 for Michael Harris, who's made fantastic contact all year, having a tremendous start to his season. He's got 13 home runs, a fantastic slash line that's better than he's ever been, over 217 plate appearances now. He's only 4,200 for some reason on DraftKings. I don't get it. He's only 3,300 on FanDuel. 391 xWOBA under the 377 actual. Has it been a minute since has he had a bad week or something? The prices came down? Where's he been over the last, say, 10 days? That was a 2 home run day. He's hit 2 home runs since his 2 home run day. Since the 2 home run day, which was the 21st. 351, 415, 541 with another 2 home runs. 6 runs, 7 ribbies. He was caught stealing. Maybe that's why they lowered his price. 374 xWOBA, 171 WRC plus. It's got to be that one caught stealing. Knocked his price down. 4,200, 3,300. Take advantage. He's been one of the better bats, certainly for this team and just kind of around the league this year. That's weird. Matty Olson, 49, a little cheap on DK, 39, appropriate on FanDuel, 16 home runs, one of the better first base options you're going to find, even against Gausman. Ozzie Albies at 44, 31. I continue to think that most of this isn't real. We've seen Ozzie at these levels before, though, and we've seen him do that with not this week of contact, but similarly light contact. So maybe he continues to get away with it. My phone is like going nuts over here. Oh, Gleyber Torres back to being healthy. That's good. Ozzy, at worst, a solid option at second base, a strong member of stacks, but I prefer those three. I prioritize those three, and I probably prioritize Austin Riley ahead of Ozzy Albies because anything that Austin Riley does, I just believe in more. Unfortunately, hasn't given a lot for us to believe in this year. Just a 290 weighted on base at 303 xWOB, I guess is a little bit better. 8 home runs. He is up to a 10% barrel, 45.3% hard hit. Still very lacking in those departments compared to previous years. But I believe more in Austin Riley. I think he continues to slowly but surely get back to himself while I expect Ozzy to come the other direction. So probably prioritize that bet. In between, Dom Smith has been the best of the trio, 325, 356, 496, 5 home runs on the board. He's got outfield eligibility, which helps you roster him on DraftKings for 38, 27 on FanDuel, nice and cheap over there. Yaz is playable. You're just hunting for the premium contact that he used to give us on a more regular basis. So far this year, it's been a little ugly, over 166 chances. The slash line is fine at 250, 331, 378. Just 3 home runs, just a 128 ISO, a little bit uncharacteristic for the lack of extra base hits, the lack of home runs. 320 WOBO, but a 293 xWOBO, 103 WRC+. plus. Surging Jorge Mateo is always interesting. 316, 357, 519 run. He's getting into the lineup regularly now. 4 home runs, 7 stolen bases. We've seen Mateo surge like this before. He's not a monster power bat, but he's always been capable in the 12 to 15 home run sense in a full season. Excellent base stealer. When he's getting on base consistently, when he's getting regular playing time, that's somebody who can always be in a lineup. 29 at shortstop. The price is right. The position's not ideal. I'd much rather have him at second or in the outfield for 26 on FanDuel. Send Leon just a mixer at the bottom of the lineup. A catcher at the absolute best, 25 completely empty plate appearances so far this year. I got more enthused about the Braves as I was talking them through. I got to be honest. I'll still say Gaussman on both, but probably better on DraftKings. Kevin Gaussman, Braves bats. I'll give it a Bryce Elder, but it's kind of low faith. And at that FanDuel price, I really don't like it. It's certainly Bryce Elder on DraftKings, Bryce Elder on FanDuel, and then Blue Jays bats. But wouldn't be surprised if Elder goes pop. Cap, I started the show saying that about that A's spot. Your 3 home run hitters. This is with me putting my thumb on the scale to account for that headwind. So I'm with you. I don't think it's a bad pick, as long as you're getting a good price on it. Just, I just wanted to say, be aware of that win situation. That's why that Vegas total is so low. Those A's against Tyon in a normalized situation, I think that would be a pretty strong looking spot. Getting some lineups in here. We did just get that Blue Jays one in. So Springer, Lukes, Vladdy. You get Pinango in there. Akamoto going down the lineup. Pinango's found a little bit of viability over 90 plate appearances. So no Jesus Sanchez. That's who he's in there for. 294, 333, 447. He's hit 3 home runs in the 90 chances, 119 WRC+. plus. You can look at him kind of like a slightly lighter hitting version of what I said about Jesus Sanchez. Everybody else was in there, but Akamoto sliding down takes a little bit away from him. The power number came down slightly from when he was up there. Takes a little bit of correlation with the guys you really want in this lineup as well away. But still very playable down there. Giants, not all that playable at a 295 implied total against Kyle Harrison, who's striking out nearly 30%. Manageable walk rate at 6.8. Solid 22.8 strikeout minus walk rate. That's well above where we want him. 1.57 ERA is dominant. 3.06 xFIP, 3.05 Sierra is the more realistic number. Has been excellent at limiting power, inducing weak and medium contact, keeping the ball in the yard. Nothing to say negative about Kyle Harrison. This is just a kid finally reaching his potential. 10-2, 10-6. One of the best lefty prospects in baseball over the last couple of years, becoming one of the best lefties in baseball. Fire away against this Giants team. entirely gettable spot. I mentioned Trevor McDonald's ability to keep the ball down. 2.1 degree average launch over his first 5 starts, 29 innings now, 3.6% barrel, 1.64% home run rate allowed. He does allow, as is typical with a lot of these ground ball types, there is a fair amount of hard hit. There's a fair amount of exit velo, but it's on such a low trajectory that it damages the home run numbers on the other side. You're seeing that significantly with these Brewers, who tend to come in a little bit lighter for home run upside, except for, against the absolute batting practice type pitchers. So it's a little bit downgraded for power. But again, to harp on it, these Brewers are ridiculous at getting on base. That's a 358 average on base over their top 6 hitters. And some of these guys down here are better than they've been this year. So 466 total, entirely believable, even without the power upside. And nothing about what I just said there is to say that these Brewers can't hit a home run against Trevor McDonald. They certainly could. He's induced an 11.8% swinging strike rate in these 29 innings to go with all the ground balls, 22.1% strikeout, but hasn't really lost anybody to walks. I do think this is an interesting pitcher. I talked him up a little bit prior to an outing where he got tattooed the other day. I don't want to oversell him. Last time out, he was pretty effective, but the start before that was the one we were talking about. That was against the White Sox, 3 2/3 of 7-run ball, 3 hits, 4 strikeouts, and a walk. Ugly game. Again, difficult line to put together when you face 18 hitters. Didn't give up a homer, but the most recent one was a lot better against Arizona. 6 1/3, 2 earned runs, 3 runs total on 6 hits, struck out 6, walked 2. Again, no home run allowed. That kind of a day is definitely in play. In his good starts, which are 4 of the 5, deep work. 6 1/3, 6 2/3, 5 1/3 was his lightest one, and then 7 innings in the debut. So this kid's pitching into the 7th inning with regularity. Makes him interesting. 8,300, throwable dart. 7,700, throwable dart. It's a both-sided situation, but again, I would lean toward the Brewers, just given their ability to create runs and where that Vegas total's at. If you're determined to play the Giants, at least they're cheap. At least they're cheap on DraftKings, I should say. Casey Schmidt at 3,500, Rafi Devers 31, Luis Arraez 31. They're not really doing you any favors on FanDuel even for the discount against Harrison. Over here, they're at least a little cheap. Schmidt does have talent, righty bat. He's been hitting the ball awfully hard. 12 home runs, 5 stolen bases, a 141 WRC plus is spectacular. I would get to Casey Schmidt in the outfield. You've got tons of positional flex on him, second base and third base included on FanDuel, so it helps that $3,500 price tag. Rafi Devers is your most important bat on this team. 49.4% hard hits, 10.1% barrel. All of a sudden, we're climbing up the board awfully fast. 7 home runs, 251, 303, 429. Headed back to normal Rafi Devers territory. Still awfully cheap for the talent on DraftKings at 42. Luis Arraez, just a batting title competitor. Just hits for average, gets on base, correlated scoring, perfectly fine in the 3 spot if that's where he's hitting. But ultimately for fantasy, for what we want, he really needs help from his friends in this terrible lineup to do anything important. 37.29 is a fair price for Willy Adames. 8 home runs on the board. Limited output so far, but we know he's better than he's been. The premium contact numbers, while being down from last year, do back that up. They are at least okay. Matt Chapman has been problematic across the board, including the contact numbers. Disaster on the season, but cheap at 32.28. Did go deep for his 2nd home run of the season last night. Daniel Susac, Buddy Kennedy, Victor Baracoto, and Jonah Cox mix and match pieces. All Cox stole a bunch of bases in the minors, so maybe throw a dart at that. On the Brewers side, Christian Yelich, Jackson Chourio, always very interesting must-have type pieces, doing similar things over their limited opportunities so far this season. Yelich has 4 home runs on the board and 3 stolen bases to Chourio's 2 and 5. They're hitting for similar average, getting on base at similar paces. Both these guys will continue to soar as the season goes on. They're both tremendous talents. Chourio underperforming the premium contact he's made so far, so I would expect the power to jump in an awful hurry. Bryce Turang at 55.39. The barrels can, actually, he spiked a little barrel. Had a good batted ball event since we talked about him yesterday. He was below 8. He'd climbed back to 8.4. 7 home runs, 9 stolen bases on the season. Just an excellent option, and honestly really like him hitting 3rd for this team behind Yelich and Chourio to reset the table for some of the power bats that follow. William Contreras is interesting for his ability to drive the ball. He's hit 4 home runs, terrific slash line, one of the better catcher bats available, but a fairly high price tag to pay for him. Jake Bauers maybe a little bit more limited by the lower end home run opportunity here. He is hitting for good average. He's getting on base. He's capable of stealing bases. But we really do like Bauers for home run upside. If anybody hits one, though, he's got a good shot to be that guy. 3.78 is actually number 3 in this lineup today. 12.2% barrel, 52.7% hard hit on the season. We talked a lot yesterday about Garrett Mitchell's contact that he's made on the season and not paid off at all in the results. Drawing a 350 on base against that 14.6% walk rate, but the output against that near 40% strikeout rate is still problematic. Sal Frelick hasn't been himself so far this season. Last year was terrific. 288, 351, 405 created runs at a 114 clip, but you can see it there. I scrolled away from it too soon. The xWOBA was 299 against a 3-something actual. So there was room to come down for Sal. The decline might be sustained, but probably not as low as it is right now. Lutheran Efo, just a mix and match guy. Same thing with David Hamilton down the bottom of the lineup. Kyle Harrison with a bullet. Brewers bats, not as far behind as some might expect. Trevor McDonald, he even projects out fairly well for the money. And then Giants bats way down toward the bottom of that board. White Sox 4-2-1 implied, Twins 387. Again, I do think Connor Prilip, despite the opposing total, is kind of interesting. Comes in with a 24% strikeout rate, but a 10.3% walk rate. That's kind of a problem. That reduces the strikeout minus walk, which is problematic for our expectations. A 5.13 ERA, but a 4.35 xFIP, 4.11 Sierra, showing a little bit more of the quality under the surface. What I think is interesting is the stuff measures out above average by Stuff Plus, has found some success with the strikeout, especially in his first couple games. Just ran into some trouble in the last 2. Last time out was against these White Sox. He gave up 6 earned runs on 8 hits over 4 1/3 and was out of the game. 23 hitters. Struck out 5 and walked 3. The strikeout total's nice. A 1 strikeout game against Boston kind of had an impact on the overall percentage. He faced 21 hitters in 4 innings. He gave up 5 earned runs, 6 runs total on 7 hits in that one. Also walked 3. The walks have come along for the ride in every start, but he had an 8 strikeout day over 6 innings against Milwaukee. Struck out 6 Guardians, 4 Blue Jays, 5 Mariners, 6 Mets in the first few starts. Couple few runs, but had not given up more than 2 earned runs in any of those first 5 starts before he hit the wall on the road in the last 2. Coming back to the home ballpark now, maybe helps him a little bit. 3 of those first 5 were at home. Kind of grasping at straws when I say that. I don't really believe that much in the home field thing, but I do believe in the talent. I do believe in the strikeout upside. This White Sox lineup, the projected version anyway, 22.9% strikeout. Same hitters who were in the league last year. It skews up to 31.3, but that's impacted by that 100% from Drew Romo. An actual number, 21.5. So believably league average with maybe a little bit more strikeout downside. Against left-handed pitching on the season, they've actually been somewhat effective for the active roster at creating runs with a 116 WRC plus, a 341 weighted on base. It's a limited number of plate appearances for the guys who are here. Remember, we lost Murakami here. We've got some guys who were, called up not incredibly recently, but lighter opportunities with the Antonacci only 167 plate appearances. Derek Hill just 73. 2 others, Randall Grichuk, Drew Romo, also in the 70s. Grichuk, obviously a super experienced player with tons of history succeeding against left-handed pitching. But my point overall is this is a somewhat small sample. But they have hit for a little bit of power overall. And again, that's the active roster. I do think the White Sox are on the board, and it's probably a good idea to hedge with them if you go to Connor Prilip. Before we get to that, though, Davis Martin at 97 and at 10.9, differently priced across sites, has been very good on the year. 2.0 ERA, a sub-3 xFIP, right around 3 Sierra, sub-1 whip, 27% strikeouts against 5.3% walks, 13.1% swinging strikes. He's really put it together this year. I'm not that skeptical that he can continue to succeed. 6.9% barrel on a light 10.6 degree average launch is fine. Explains away the hard hit, the exit velo. Accounts for the light 1.14% home run rate. The one thing I would throw into the mix as like a potential monkey wrench is we're well below average across all 3 of Stuff Plus, Location Plus, and Pitching Plus. I don't know how sustainable that actually is, but he's really made it work. So right now, got to kind of buy in. Twins have been somewhat low end against right-handed pitching, last night aside. 387 implied total for Minnesota. Vegas is kind of on Martin's side. Like a lot better on DK for the money. Don't love it there, but that probably renders him lower owned than a lot of the other top end pitchers. And he's got a somewhat equal ceiling except for maybe, the Schlitlers of the world. Top of the White Sox in this projected version, Chase Meadraw's been interesting to start his season. Hit for a little bit more power, barreling a few more balls than we would expect. 5 home runs already on the year. We're more interested in the hit for average, get on base, 339 on base right now. A 328 actual WOBA, but a concerning just 299 xWOBA under the surface. We got to keep our eye on that. If he starts to decline, we'll know why. 107 WRC plus on the year. He remains very cheap for a good table setter. He scored a whole bunch of runs, 36 runs scored in 246 plate appearances, not always leading off. Miguel Vargas remains interesting. 15th home run of the season came last night. Kosa Montgomery from the left side, 15 home runs. We'll see if he's hitting third or if he drops down the lineup with a lefty on the bump. Probably hits third, though, to get his power up toward the top. Monster barrel rate, premium contact galore. Would definitely take him if I'm playing White Sox today, but maybe a little bit diminished in the same inning matchup. Randall Grichuk, as mentioned, tons of success against lefties throughout his career, tons of power output from the right side. Right now, in a limited 76 plate appearances, he's found the barrel quite a bit, some hard hits, 4 home runs on the board already, a 236 ISO. Randall Grichuk remains interesting, cheap, 3,000, 2,500 in the outfield. If you're going to White Sox, do not skip Randall Grichuk against the lefty. That should just be a rule. I mean, if you build a bunch of White Sox, obviously you can have some without him, but that's a priority bat, especially with no Murakami in the lineup. You're lacking for premiums. You're lacking for power. Drew Romo, just more of a mixer. 36 is fine on DraftKings if you want him. He's there. 177, 292, 468, but has hit the odd 5 home runs. You can see the overperformance in the 317 xWOB under the 333 actual. Benintendi went deep last night for his 5th home run, paying off some of the premium contact when I talked negatively about him. I won't make that same mistake again. He's just fine. He's a special boy. I'm not really a big fan. I think the 238, 287, 401 hitter is more who Andrew Benintendi actually is. We've seen that over time. Plenty of strikeout, not enough walk. He's just made some exceptionally good contact so far this year for him and in general. The hard hits are what's really up. 48.4 in a small sample versus 36.8 last year. I continue to think it comes back down to earth, but you can throw him into the mix. There is a lefty on the mound, though. Be aware. Derek Hill, mixer. Sam Antonacci, mixer if he's in the lineup at all against the lefty, but he's found a ton of success so far, getting on at a 370 clip, 8 stolen bases. Really interesting player in general. 42-28, part of the White Sox rebuild. And then Luis Angel at the bottom of the lineup, just not a major league talent right now. On the Twin side, Byron Buxton's your priority. 61-39 kind of tells you that. 17 home runs over 234 knock-on-wood plate appearances that they continue. Monster 296 ISO. Just a 329 xWOBA under the 375 is a little surprising and maybe a point of concern. But we know that Byron Buxton's a superstar, so my money would be on the xWOBA normalizing toward the WOBA in this case. Brooks Lee at 37, 3,000. Solid mixer. He's had a good year with 8 home runs and 3 stolen bases and 221 chances, a 107 WRC plus. I do think that's a player who comes down somewhat. He's already started at 256, 314, 429. He's got a 273 xWOB under the around league average 328 actual. Doesn't really make great contact, but he puts a lot of balls in play. Found some success with it early. Still 37, fills third base just fine on DraftKings if you're going to this team. 3,000, at least you can put him at second or third on FanDuel, but that's the upper end of the pricing range that I would want to pay. Cody Clemens, you can make up for some of that with Clemens. 34-28. He's nice and cheap. Love the premium contact upside. 6 home runs, 5 steals, had a few points on the board without a home run yesterday. He can get on base. He can hit you the long ball, 13.6%, barrel 12.4%, hard hit rate, getting opportunities every single day. Love the upside in a long-term sense for Cody Clemens through this year anyway. Josh Bell, just a mixer. Getting on at just a 283 pace. You get the odd home run here and there, 5 on the season. Decent for contact, 10% barrel, 42.5% hard hit, but there's not a lot here. Trevor Larnach is better than he's been. 3 home runs. Getting on base at a 371 clip is great, but has a 315 xWOBA under the 344 actual. Isn't making good contact this year when he typically has throughout his career. 6.1% barrel, 29.8% hard hit. Maybe he's just turned himself into a light hitting, hit for average and get on base type. I doubt it, but that's the version of Trevor Larnach we've seen so far this year. He's still playable as that, and he's nice and cheap for it. And I do believe that the guy with a little bit of power in the bat reemerges at some point. Victor Caratini's been a little bit lighter than usual for contact. It's resulted in a lackluster slash line of 56 WRC plus. I do think you continue throwing that dart, though. He does have a 328 XWOB under his 254 actual, and we've seen him succeed over stretches for providing regular premium contact. Luke Keeschel playing like just a mixer, so that's what we'll call him at the bottom of the lineup. And then Tristan Gray has had some interesting games, 4 home runs, but ultimately 237, 290, 392 is probably actually who he is. A few good batted ball events, though. If you want to throw a dart at it, do it at third base, not at shortstop, second or third on FanDuel. Davis Martin on DraftKings. White Sox bats. Connor Prelip on either side. Davis Martin on FanDuel. Twins bats. I can split the baby however I want. What's going on in the chat? I haven't popped my head in there in a minute. Oh, White Sox lineup came out while I was talking through? Thanks, Wrigley. I'll grab it. I've been hitting the button. It just depends on when I land on the game. We'll get go forward ones here. See what landed in the White Sox. Meteroth Grichuk hitting 2 is very interesting. That makes him even more of a priority, in my opinion. Love that upside for Randall Grichuk. Don't sleep on that play. You do not get Colson Montgomery. That plays in Connor Prelip's favor, even with lefty-lefty in play. Sam Antonacci hitting 5th against the fellow lefty. Benny down toward the bottom. Left-handed Jacob Gonzalez down at the bottom, the very bottom of the lineup. This is a low-end White Sox lineup. Their 2 best bats are not here. I would slide Connor Prelip up over the White Sox now. Heavily right-handed lineup, or well, somewhat, at least at the top. Grichuk and Vargas are threats up there. You know, Chase Meadroff can scratch out hits, draw a walk, but this is a light lineup. On the Twin side, this was only slightly different. Alex Jackson sneaking into the lineup. That's a guy who's made a lot of premium contact. Last year hit 5 home runs in 100 plate appearances, 3 home runs in 155 the year before that. No regularity as far as his performances go, but you can see in those 100 plate appearances last year, 14.8% barrel. You can throw a dart at that for 23 on DraftKings. Dead min price on FanDuel where you don't need catchers, but you could sacrifice Josh Bell. This is no big loss. So playable from the bottom of the lineup. Everybody else, I believe we talked about. Rangers lineup not in, but the Cards is. Unfortunately for them, they're facing Nathan Eovaldi at 95 at 10-4. Eovaldi's pitched to a 23.7% strikeout, 5.7% walk. That is pretty terrific. 18.02 is a little bit lower than the 20% excellence threshold that we have for strikeout minus walk. That's just kind of who Eovaldi is, but he's a spectacular run limiter when things are going right. Just a 3.93 ERA this season, but a 3.37 xFIP, 3.38 Sierra are a lot more aligned to expectation for Eovaldi. 11 starts, 68 2/3, capable of pitching very deep into a ball game. Has given up a little bit of power, but it hasn't really come because he's suddenly exploded for bad premium contact numbers. Just some happenstance in the home run total. Last year, he limited hitters to a 2.02 on slightly fewer barrels, a slightly lower launch, slightly fewer hard hits, slightly less exit velo. So there are minor upticks there, but not enough to account for a 2.5 point jump in the home run rate. That's, again, just a few balls that happen to get out for circumstance. Nothing you can do about that. Eovaldi's tremendous. 3.5 implied total for his opponent. 95 works, 10-4 works. One of the top projected pitchers on the slate. Dustin May at 68 is a downright bargain. Even if it was just, a 20% strikeout guy, 6.7% walk rate against the scuffling Rangers team. Yeah, I know they've had a few outbursts lately, but overall, it's a gettable target. There are some strikeouts there. 3.53 implied total kind of speaks to that. So even if it was just the 1-in-5 version who's just pitching deep into games, I'm interested in Dustin May. But I think he puts together more strikeout as the season goes on. We've seen more strikeout from him in the past. 4.57 ERA on the year, but a 4.08 xFIP, 4.05 Sierra. Had a no-hitter going the other day. Last time out, 7 innings, 1 earned run, 2 hits, 2 runs total, 9 strikeout day. Had a 9 strikeout game. Again, that was against the Brewers, 7 against the Pirates, just 3 against the Royals, but they can be low strikeout. 7 against the Padres, who are also low strikeout. So 7+ strikeouts in 3 of his last 4 starts. There's at least like 7 strikeout potential. We might not go, rocket up to 9 like we did last time out, but for 6,800, I'll take 7 innings and 7 strikeouts. Potential to win the ball game. FanDuel 8,900. I'll take my quality start, my shot at some strikeouts. I think Dustin May's just kind of rounding into form. He's a guy we've seen succeed in the show. When healthy, 103 rating by Stuff Plus, good at limiting home runs, light on barrels. Nothing not to like about the spot. Success or failure, that's up to him. Rangers bats against, worthy of mixer shares anyway. If they come up, I wouldn't rush to take them out, particularly around the key bats. Jock Peterson, Brendan Nimmo would be a big part of that. The big-time lefty bats. 8 home runs in a hurry for Jock Peterson, over 178, getting back to himself, 356 on base, 124 WRC+. 7 on the board for Nimmo, who, again, is also getting back to himself, although a little bit of a decline. If I'm looking at the numbers and remembering like 2 weeks ago, 258, 339, 413. I think he was getting on base a little bit more than that. 386 xWOB under his 335 actual, though. A lot of premium contact so far this season. We've seen Nimmo excel in the show in years past, so plenty of room to continue growing and put more numbers on top of these. Absolute priority for those 2 big lefties up at the top of the lineup. Josh Young is having a great year, over 230 plate appearances, growing sample size. DraftKings has not noticed. 36 at third base. That's an ideal spot to have a kid who's really rolling right now. 310, 365, 486, a 140 WRC plus. xWOBA supports the that everything going on is pretty real. He's not a monster home run bat, but he's a low strikeout, put the ball in play with some authority behind it. 44.9% hard hit. The jibes with 46.7 from last year. And he's just finding the success with it this year. He's hitting the ball to the right parts of the field. He's hit 7 home runs, but I'm more looking at him for correlated scoring. The 365 on base, 140 WRC plus. Jake Berger at 35 works, 8.93, leads this team in the home run model. Not the greatest spot in the world for home run upside, but if I'm putting together a Ranger stack, Jake Berger's probably a part of that plan. The issue on DraftKings is that you have a straight up positional block with Jock Peterson. That's problematic. We need to figure out a better option. We can't have key bats blocking each other like that. It's annoying. On FanDuel, you could go, obviously first in util, but you also get the outfield eligibility on Jock, which really works. That's where I want to put him. If I'm taking Jake Berger in my 4-man FanDuel construction, Jock Peterson goes in the outfield. If I end up in my next stack and it's an outfield that lands in util, fine. But if the first team I'm building if I'm hand building it, I put Jock in the outfield, not Berger, Jock first and util. Just leave that flexibility there for yourself. You take advantage of the outfield eligibility. Going down the lineup, they get a little bit thin, but there's usability across basically every one of those guys not named Nicky Lopez. Ezekiel Duran can succeed over time. He's had very good stretches for getting on base, for hitting for average, creating interesting counting stats. Little bit of power. It's not great. 4 home runs on the year. It's not going to have much more of a pace than that over 184 plate appearances. 5 stolen bases. It's at least representative of how he can fill categories. Alejandro Osuna, 256, 379, 279, drawing an interesting walk rate against a very low strikeout rate. So you're getting a ball in player. You're getting him to first base with regularity. It's an interesting enough player. Not a great spot in the lineup for that skill set. But if you have him and then you have Kyle Higashioka as a cheap catcher option 2 spots later and Higgy goes deep with him on base, you've put something together from the bottom of the Rangers lineup for very little money. In between, Evan Carter, more of a line drive guy who's not really finding success right now. That's an interesting enough lefty bat that I'd give him some consideration in any build, but in no way a priority on this one. Again, Higgy, you're just hunting for that good batted ball event, 9.8% barrel, jibes with who he's been in years past. Just 3 home runs, low-end slash line. You're never going to get a good slash line out of him, but I like his chances to get us to 10 home runs before season's end once again. Always sneaky. And Nicky Lopez, just not much of a bat. 269, 296, 385 right now. Does have a home run in 27 plate appearances. On the card side, of all these, not a great pitcher to tackle here. At least they come in at a slightly higher total than the Guardians, than the Giants do against Schlittler and whoever. Oh, wait, Aaron Judge. Fuck. He is hurt. Aaron Judge out of tonight's lineup due to right shoulder soreness. Imaging showed a bone bruise. That ain't good. Where'd he get a bone bruise from? Shouldn't we have known about that? I don't remember him getting plunked. Ay, 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 ay. Not good. That explains the general lack of output or lack of being Aaron Judge that we've seen over the last few weeks. So continuing on, Cards, not a great spot, but again, a little bit better than those teams with their sub-3 implied totals. You got some interesting enough bats at the top end of this lineup with J.J. Weatherholt, who's having a very nice year, 9 home runs, 7 stolen bases, a solid 356 on base. Excellent numbers across WOBA and ex-WOBA, WRC plus at 119. Top guys here. I mean, that's a solid stretch. I shouldn't include the 28, but the solid 4-man there. The regulars, 131 WRC plus for Weatherholt, Ivan Herrera, Burleson, and Jordan Walker. They mix in, a Nolan Gorman from late, a Jimmy Crooks, who is an interesting prospect catcher who's still just at the dead min 2,000. That's a spot you could certainly throw a dart at on DraftKings if you're choosing to tackle Nathan Eovaldi. What I probably don't do with that cheap catcher is one-off him against Eovaldi. It just, without any correlation there, it just renders him a total dart throw, and it's probably too low end to do that with him. Victor Scott's not much of a bat at the bottom of the Cards lineup. Mason Wynn, kind of an overrated hitter who's not done anything good this year in the 6th spot, is not ideal. Brian Torres, 28 pretty good plate appearances so far this year. Is he a rookie? Not Glaber. 28. Have we seen him? No, these are his first 28 plate appearances in the show. So off to a good start. In 166 plate appearances down on the farm as a 28-year-old so far this year. He only had 2 homers. He did steal 10 bases, had a great slash line at 336, 454, 477, but should have aged out by now. Last year, over 414 AAA plate appearances, 9 home runs, 26 steals. Again, similar slash line to what he's got so far this year, 147 WRC plus, but again, that was as a 27-year-old. Similar success as a 26-year-old in AA the year before that. So maybe just arriving late to the show, he will continue that trend of being a little bit older than he ought to be for this level of his career, but finding success. 28-27. Second baseman on FanDuel is probably a little bit more interesting than just another outfielder on DraftKings, but probably a playable 5th man if you're building with Cardinals against Eovaldi, which is inadvisable. Eovaldi, May, Rangers, Cardinals. I think there's an appreciable gap more than the Vegas total would indicate between the quality of the Rangers upside today and the Cardinals upside today. Dustin May, good as he's been, a lot more gettable over time than Nathan Eovaldi. Talked about the weather concerns, or at least referred to him in this one. We've got a 12-mile-an-hour headwind blowing toward home plate that is going to impact power a little bit. I've done what I can with that. Jameson Taillon, giving up a 7.48% home run rate over 11 starts in 60 innings. There's only so much I can do. 14.9% barrel rate allowed on a significant fly ball trajectory. Hard hits and exit velo haven't been his problem. It's just been the heading towards the seats. So that's I just caught what you guys said about my cursing when I saw the Judge news. Yeah, that one came from the soul is what Pirates said. Good stuff. Yeah, that one hurts. Judgy, not only a big part of my Yankees, big, crucial part of the dynasty team. If he's out for any length of time, that's the season, folks. We'll wrap it up. We'll start selling. I don't know about that, but that's not good. So, yeah, the A's. I put my thumb on the scale as much as I'm willing to. If you want to knock them down further, if you use these home run model numbers in any kind of lineup building process, decision-making process, if you're making wagers out there based on home run numbers, just be aware that they're hitting the ball into the wind. But this is one of the most targetable home run pitchers so far this year and in seasons past. He's not been this bad, but a 4.62% home run rate over 23 starts, 129 and 2/3 last year. 4 is our emergency number there. We're approaching 5. Year before in 28 starts, just 3.11. He was decent that year, but even 3, there's still something there. You'd be going to A's on normalized weather, 4+ back in 2023. So we've got multiple seasons of a lot of faith that we can hit home runs against Jameson Taillon. We've got 3 of the better home run hitters in baseball in our lineup over here. Not to mention Tyler Soderstrom at 9.75. Should have seen these numbers before I put my thumb on the scale. So yeah, I would have no issues playing A's. I think that 363 implied total is a little bit light. Taillon's still a capable guy every now and then. 5.37 ERA, 4.68 xFIP. I think he's ultimately better than that even. Last year, 3.68 ERA, 4.34 xFIP. That's more on expectation for Taillon. Is that like low mid fours, 4.25, something around there. So closer to the xFIP, closer to the Sierra, but still super gettable. Feels like the A's should be 4+ even with the wind. But do with that what you will. I hate these weather games in Wrigley. Wouldn't play Taillon under normal circumstances. At 66, with all that stuff on his side, remember everything bad I just said about him, but note that he at least induces an 11% swinging strike rate, doesn't have that much issue with walk, doesn't find that many strikeouts, but again, decent for run limitation last year, so maybe could find some success for the money on DraftKings. That's all I'm willing to give Jameson Taillon. Would not play him on FanDuel, even at 73. Gage jump at 6,000, at 8,000, I think is potentially more interesting. He's going against the Cubs team that has the higher implied total, that has every argument I made about the A's for power, plus the ability to sequence and create runs even without power. He's in the more dangerous spot. He is the less proven of these two pitchers, but he's a very high-end prospect for this A's team. It's an interesting enough pitcher for a very cheap price. So if I'm throwing darts at good weather conditions for pitching, might as well go with the cheaper, more interesting kid, even in a tough situation against a good Cubs lineup. They've been really struggling putting runs on the board in recent games. Still some lingering quality there if you look at WRC plus, of course. But I think jump at 6,000 from the bargain bin is your interesting bargain pitcher of the day on DK, like I was talking about. At 8,000 on FanDuel, I'm skeptical about getting him to a quality start, so I really would be concerned about that spot. Let me hit the lineup button real quick before we dive into this again. Feels like these lineups are looming, but they're not. We do have the Cubbies. All right. Top of the A's, Carlos Cortez has been really interesting this year. 328, 415, 518, 5 homers, over 159 plate appearances. That's a stunning start to his season. 410 WOBA, 392 xWOBA, 160 WRC plus. Solid premium contact numbers, no strikeouts, plenty of walks. Give me some Carlos Cortez off the top. I'm not entirely sure why he's so cheap. It's a great spot in the lineup for him, too. Kurtz, 54, 4,000. An utterly elite 439 on base with that 20.5% walk rate. Not sure if he had a game where he didn't happen to get on base, but was 40 plus game on base streak for a while there. Was chasing Jimmy Fox's club record. 5,300, 3,700 for Shea Langoliers. He's hit 14 home runs to the 10 that Kurtz has on the board. Monster power upside, monster premium contact upside from the lefty, from the righty. And then you get to Brent Rooker, who's been low end, 194, 278, 368, has erased all the gains that he's made over the last few years. His strikeout rate has spiked back up at 31.8. He was down at 22% last year. Had been 32.7 going back to 2023. Improved again. Fallen apart so far this year. He is too smart of a hitter to not figure it out. I have full faith in Brent Rooker. Me from several years ago would be so mad at me for saying that. But he's done so much over the last few years that I'm not willing to write off all of those gains after 176 bad plate appearances, over which, by the way, he's got a better barrel rate than he had last year. Just lacking for hard hits, lacking for consistency, not finding success, not putting the ball in the right part of the field or in the seats. But I have tons of faith, and that price is right at 44 at 31. So if I'm already taking A's in this bad hitting situation, this allegedly bad hitting situation, better believe Brent Rooker's a part of that. Soderstrom, I already mentioned. Excellent numbers for premium contact. Just 7 home runs. Low end slash line, especially compared to how good he was last year. 326 weighted on base and a 331 xWOBA gives us a little faith. He's made it work anyway. 103 WRC plus, even with the low end slash line. Drawn an 11.4% walk, not really striking out. Has made significant gains in those categories. This is a growing player who's really, really interesting. 4,300 on DraftKings works. Still first base eligible on FanDuel. Also gets into the mix. You could, you got Kurtz there, so outfield's probably where you want him anyway. Henry Bolte, not really paying off the talent as far as the power goes, but the on-base skills have been there. The stolen base skills have been there, over 61 plate appearances, and he's got a good hard hit rate. So he's hitting the ball with authority. He just hasn't found the barrel yet, hasn't found the trajectory yet. But there's home run potential in there. 103 WRC plus. He's been a decent run creator. He's very cheap and probably more talented than like just another outfielder level. Probably like him better than Jeff McNeil, but not as much as Zach Geloff right now. Geloff had a nice little surge, 6 home runs, 6 steals, solid slash line, over 150 plate appearances. We probably see it come back down, especially in the average in the on-base department. 294 xWOBA under the 324 actual. We know that he can be a roller coaster, but good multi-category contributor when things are going right. Good opportunity against Tyon, even with the wind blowing. And then Darrell Arnaiz, if you're just looking for singles, Darrell Arnaiz is your man. Nico at the top of the Cubs lineup was on a waiver wire in one of my public leagues. If you were in any fantasy league anywhere, do not drop Nico Horner just because he's scuffling a little bit for a few weeks. That is idiotic. Continuing on, 4,300. This is your public service announcement. The more you know. 4,300 is awfully cheap for Nico. That's an overreaction. 3,200 is also an overreaction. 11 stolen bases, still getting on at a 335 clip. Technically still a positive run creator at 101 WRC plus. A super interesting 337 xWOBA that speaks to the talent under the below average 314 actual. He will figure it out. I promise you. It's a good enough spot to get there against this rookie. PCA, 4,900, 3,200. Speaking of figuring things out, has been much better over the last few weeks, even with everybody around him in decline. Up to a 10.2% barrel, 50% hard hit, 7 home runs, 12 stolen bases. PCA goes in opposite directions of all of his teammates. He's a weirdo that way. 4,200, 2,900 at third base for Alex Bregman's interesting. If you're going to the Cubs already, might as well fire up Bregman. He just looks like Alex Bregman across everything that he's doing, except for maybe the output being just kind of meh. But a 103 WRC plus, a 325 xWOBA kind of speaks to that under the 317 actual. Not a lot of extra base hits. It's just a 105 ISO, 5.7% barrel. The hard hits are down slightly, but still interesting enough. Low strikeout, plenty of balls in play. Bregman's just an interesting bat when he gets this cheap. And we know there's more upside than what we've seen. More power. Seiya Suzuki at 47, 3,000, 7 home runs in 196 chances for him. Definitely an interesting player. He draws plenty of walks. A little bit of strikeout in the game, certainly, but tons of ability to hit for power. One of your more likely contributors from the home run perspective against Gage Jump here, 9.46 in the home run model. Ian Happ can take one deep against anybody, 13 home runs in 252 chances. He's inexplicably only 4,100 on the DraftKings slate. Tons of premium contact. 3,600, more correct on FanDuel. He's getting on at a 349 clip, 343 xWOB under a 358 actual, 131 WRC plus. Can't really explain the DK pricing unless it's just an overreaction to batting average, which is a flawed way to do this. Carson Kelly, mix and match catcher. Michael Busch against the lefty, a little bit of a drop in the batting order, a little bit of a decline. Hasn't exactly been himself. Certainly not the guy we saw all of last year, but tremendous upside, 6 home runs. If he's a little bit lower owned for the lefty to start the game, and I'm already going Cubs at a 396 implied total, I might as well load up my lower probabilities and take a big-time upside bat. If we can find a righty out of the bullpen for Michael Busch, there's tremendous upside for power. Kevin Alcantara, at the dead min price is also interesting. $23 years old. In the minors so far this season, 180 plate appearances in AAA as a 23-year-old, so right on track. 15 home runs. Can I interest you in that? A 325 ISO, possibly interesting. 351 xWOBA under a 390 actual, 123 WRC plus. So a little bit of overperformance. Also does come with a 33% AAA strikeout rate, but a 12.2% walk. We saw him very, very briefly in the show last year. 12 plate appearance, cup of coffee, over which he hit for a little bit of average, got on base, and struck out several times. Little, even smaller cup of coffee the year before that for 10 plate appearances. In between, he had a 430 plate appearance AAA season with 17 homers, 10 steals, a solid but not spectacular slash line. A 473 plate appearance 2024 across AA and AAA, 14 homers, 14 steals. Again, solid, not spectacular slash line, but a 121 WRC plus that year. This is a high-end kid with a ton of talent. Per Fangraphs, he's their number 5 organizational prospect. Multiple tools with well above average grades in traditional scouting. Don't sleep on Alcantara. I don't know why I'm having a problem with that. at the bottom of the lineup, but dead min pricing on both sides. That's another guy. If you're, again, the Cubs not looking great because of the conditions here, but it's a matchup against a rookie pitcher with that young kid. And if you're going with like a Cubs red stack, and now I can have talented rookies, Kevin Alcantara and Edwin Arroyo in my lineup, double up on those Spanish names, at min price for all their talent, that access is so much for building with those lineups and then getting to great pitching. I just wish the Cubs didn't have a little bit of wind blowing in their faces. And then Dansby at the bottom of the lineup at 34, at 29. We can always go back to Dansby. He's hit 7 home runs, stolen 5 bases. I feel like it's been a minute since those totals have changed. He's made okay contact. The slash line is way below expectations. He's not having a good year, but that's a really interesting option who's going to be in their lineup every single day. And he's got the skill set to wrap around effectively, not doing it this year, but in years past, he could be considered a wraparound guy. If it weren't for this weather, it would be super straightforward. And I think it would actually come down A's, Cubs, jump, Taillon. In this situation, I'm going to say Cubs, gauge jump on DraftKings, A's bats, Jameson Taillon on either site, gauge jump on FanDuel. Or did I say Cubs bats? They're in there somewhere. It's a messy one to rank. I think any one of these 4 things is in play. I put the pitching on the board a little bit more just because of the conditions, but I don't like doing that, especially not with good quality teams that can damage directly the poor things that are happening for a Jameson Taillon. Like with this inability to control power right now, just because there's a little wind blowing doesn't take me off the A's. I'm not necessarily advocating for it with that total. They don't crash the top of the board in anything except for power. But it wouldn't shock me at all if either of these offenses had a day. Let's get off this game. Talk plenty about it. Hour 40 in. We got to have 4 games to go, I think. 4:48. We're doing all right. Pirates, interesting at 4.52. Astros, interesting at 4.57. 2 talented young pitchers. Mike Burrows, the former Pirate. Bubba Chandler, the up-and-coming Pirate. The presence of Bubba Chandler probably allowed them to send Mike Burrows out. Burrows on the year, 19.6% strikeout, not quite where we want it, but is inducing an interesting enough 10.9% swinging strike rate, so don't completely write off his talent. 7.6% walk is not all that problematic. Just a 12% strikeout minus walk, though. We need more strikeout if we're going to walk that many hitters. 5.40 ERA, but a 4.38 xFIP. Again, more manageable in the under the surface numbers, the things that he's actually controlling on the field. But those are also not exactly ideal. We would want him a little bit lower in the 3.8s somewhere. That was around my expectation for this year. He's given up a bunch of home runs, but it's not really because he's given up any kind of premium contact. So the home runs, which have damaged the ERA, are more happenstance than anything we can specifically point to. It just means mistakes are getting tattooed into the seats. I think Burrows figures it out. The Astros organization is too smart for him not to. He showed a lot last year. Last season, 24.1% strikeout, 7.7% walk. So almost the exact same walk rate with significantly more strikeouts. A similar but higher swinging strike rate by about a point. Just interesting numbers there. 3.94 ERA. Again, I expected him in the 3.8s kind of territory, and I have justification for saying that. That's where he was last year. So this is a guy who's better than he's been. But these Pirates are also better than they were. They've got some interesting lefty thunder to throw at a struggling righty who's really had home run problems. So give me some Pirates bats. But I would throw darts with Mike Burrows. 72, 76. Inoffensively priced. Plenty of strikeout upside available from the Pirates. This confirmed version of this projected version, 21.8% strikeout rate overall, with Mangum drawing things down a little bit, with Nick Gonzalez and all his BABIP success drawing things down a little bit. Ryan O'Hearn, believably low strikeout. We've got O'Neal Cruz in there at 34.9. Deadly good as he is, he strikes out a lot. Brian Reynolds, manageable strikeout, a little right around league average, but in years past has given us uglier seasons or slightly higher seasons. Brendan Lau, always good for a strikeout. Spencer Harwitz is appreciably low strikeout, though. Andy Rodriguez, Jared Triola down the bottom of the lineup. So there are Ks on board for Burrows if he wants to go find them. No real faith in going to that play. And again, Vegas is on the other side of it. I prefer Pirates bats. That's how it'll rank out. But I think Burrows is playable, and he's probably more playable than Bubba. Bubba coming in with a 22% strikeout. Where I get concerned is the 15.3% walk rate, 4.85 ERA, 5.08 xFIP Sierra. Those are similar numbers to over here. 1.52 whip. Hasn't really been bad as far as his contact numbers go either, but a significant fly ball trajectory, plays in the Astros home run hitting favor a little bit, 90 miles an hour of exit velo on average, a 9.5% barrel rate. So probably a little lucky to be at that 2.97% home run rate, but there's a lot of talent here too. Well above average stuff versus well below average stuff. Bubba is good and is going to figure it out. We saw it one start with the 11 strikeout game. I don't think that happens to him against these Astros. Everybody atop their lineup is very low strikeout. So give me bats on either side. If I'm going Pirates, Harwitz, still nice and cheap at 35-31. I continue to not love that he's a first baseman, but you do what you can. He's hit 7 home runs. He can find premium contact from time to time. He's an on-base machine right now, and love that ahead of Brandon Lau, from whom we would definitely expect a home run against Mike Burrows, 11.9 in the home run model. Not a bad pick. Brian Reynolds at 43-35. Less expensive on DK, notably. That's a really interesting price for a guy who's found his success again. He's getting on at a 403 clip for one thing. 276, 403, 438. He's hit 6 home runs, stolen 4 bags. Even at his best, he's, lower 20s home run type. He's not a 40 home run guy. So this is Brian Reynolds just, piecing everything back together after a bad year last year. 375 weighted on base with a 370 X-Wob underneath it. Ryan O'Hearn, capable line drive hitter with a little bit of power, 18.8% strikeout and 10.2% walk, kind of in line with where he's been the last couple seasons. 8 home runs, 294, 371, 479. Very interesting lefty bat throw into Mike Burrows. 46, 34, average prices. It's okay to pay those prices for O'Hearn, especially if you're getting a cheap Harwitz in with him. You get him in the outfield over here so you can put that combination together. First base eligibility for both guys, but you do have eligibility in the outfield on O'Hearn, which is probably where I would drop him on FanDuel. What I will say is you get a little FanDuel expensive around having all 3 of those guys in. Like if I want Harwitz, I obviously want to get to O'Neal Cruz down there. The shortstop eligibility continues to be great for O'Neal Cruz, by the way. The Pirates are not cheap like they used to be. Lau's expensive, and then Reynolds would be your ideal 4-man, and you're paying $35.75 a piece. In a very good spot, but that's expensive. So odds are you're going to have to work in some of the guys around the edges. Nick Gonzalez for the hit tool, and the success he's found via BABIP is not really priced up, which is helpful. Andy Rodriguez can put good wood on the ball. Had a high-end prospect pedigree once upon a time. 38 plate appearances, been all right. 486 on base is certainly good, but it's a very, very small sample. Jake Mangum's just a quad A type talent, hitting for average, steals a base from time to time, getting on base right now, but we saw that for a minute last year and then it declined. Not expecting a lot from Jake Mangum. 33 is just okay, but he's just another outfielder on DK. 25, at least there's a little bit of a discount baked in on FanDuel. Triolo, maybe a little bit interesting at the bottom. We saw a few barrels, nothing special, but at least a few along the way for such a cheap bat. You can move him around. Third base is where you'd want him on DK. Second and third on FanDuel is all right, but not an ideal guy. We're talking about somebody who hit 7 home runs, stole 13 bags last year, had an 86 WRC plus. Year before, 9 homers, 8 steals, and a 72 in a larger sample. So know what you're buying into with Jared Triolo if you go there. On the Astros side, against probably, again, the more gettable Bubba, especially if they're exploiting the walk, this team you don't get a ton of walk rate out of. But again, a lot of low strikeout, guys who are more patient than those walk rates might indicate when the situation dictates. Like Isaac Paredes, 11-4, 11-9, 10-2 the last 3 years. Are we going to buy into 8.9? I think he could still draw a walk when he needs to. Taylor Trammell has even drawn some walks in the show in small samples. So there are walks here. Jeremy Pena at 39, 31 would be a key part of Astros stacks. 100 pretty good plate appearances. Had a good year last year that really bought him a lot of expectation going into this season. Solid 360 xWOBA under the low end 325 actual. So a lot of room to grow as the season goes on. Jordan Alvarez is just one of the best hitters in the league. Put him in your Astros stacks. Christian Walker at 43, at 35. Differently priced across sites. DraftKings, another one where they have not caught up. He's really pieced things back together. Sub 20% strikeout rate is the most important ingredient for him, but he's hitting for power again. 16 home runs already on the season. 360 weighted on base. A lower end 337 xWOBA. Something to watch there. If there's a decline, you don't be surprised by it. But I like him to continue right about here. I think this is just Christian Walker getting back to his talent after 2 years of a little bit of decline. Isaac Paredes in this ballpark has upside for power. Still gets on base at a decent clip anyway. 6 home runs on the board, a 103 WRC plus. Ultimately, just another guy, but affordable at third base for a guy who can put one into those left field seats for you. Taylor Trammell, we've talked about it a couple times over the last few weeks, former top-end prospect who, finally getting a little bit of a regular chance here after washing out and missing some time with oddball injuries. Like anytime he's gotten a chance in years past, he comes up injured. So knock on wood, he stays healthy. He's put together a decent line in 57 chances so far. A little bit of upside for power as well that might be lurking. Solid 7.8% barrel, 40.3% hard hit in a small sample of plate appearances last year. So he can put decent wood on the ball in the show. Speaking of, Cam Smith, 13.6% barrel, gives us a little bit of ongoing faith in Smith. 226 pretty bad plate appearances outside of the 6 home runs and the 7 stolen bases. Not a lot to love there, but a lot to like in that 346 xWOBA under the sub 300 actual. Ton of premium contact. Where are you, Cam Smith? Come through. Come on. Jake Myers, mix and match. Bryce Matthews, mix and match. Christian Vasquez, probably worse than that. Any one of those guys in any given Astros stack, just fine. Not a desirable bat among them. All right. I think it was on the stacks board, Pirates Astros. So that's how I'll leave it. But I really want to say Astros over Pirates. Either way, they're two of the better options as far as offense goes. I think you can throw a dart at either pitcher as a value play, but it's probably Burrows over Bubba just for a little bit more reliability without the walk issue getting in the way. Both guys underperforming their talents by significant degrees right now, though. Rockies and the Angels. The Angels are looking like a launching pad for power upside again. All 4 of these guys way above the magic number. Logan O'Hoppe even in the 9 spot, cruising to a 9.25 because they're going up against Tomo Sugano, who is giving up a 16% barrel rate so far this season. 47% hard hits, 91.3 miles an hour of exit velo. Lucky to be at this atrociously bad 4.55% home run. He's the guy who should be giving up 7% home runs. Love the upside for the Angels. 477 total. Loves the upside for them too. No reason in the world to play Tomo Sugano. The real issue here is Grayson Rodriguez and his $6,500 DraftKings price. Again, 3 starts on the season, 21.5% strikeout in a meaninglessly small sample. We know that Grayson Rodriguez, when he's been healthy, has been an effective major league pitcher who's paid off his once upon a time prospect pedigree, at least in those small samples. I hope you can still hear me. I had to plug the mouse back in. He went 5 innings in the most recent start against Detroit, struck out 5, 1 earned run, faced 19 hitters, faced 25 hitters over 5 2/3 against Texas the start before that, 4 earned runs, struck out 5 in that game, walked 2. So the depth is probably there, especially if he's cruising through Rockies. If he racks up a little bit of strikeout, maybe the pitch count runs up and we don't see him crack 6 innings for a quality start. But I think the ability to, given the deeper outings there, I think the ability to go 6 is certainly here. So 9,000, I wouldn't write him off on FanDuel at a near 30-point projection. We're probably also talking about closer to his ceiling at that projection, just on a little bit of limitation. I don't think they let him go out and throw a complete game, for example, where Cam Schlittler could. But that's a solid number, even at 9,000. At 65, he looks like a spectacular SP2 option. It could go entirely sideways. He has not had a ton of major league experience. He has not had a ton of recent major league experience. Very badly damaged over the last couple of years. But this is the best or one of the best targets to throw him at. 382 implied total. Does speak to a little bit of potential around the Hunter Goodmans of the world, the Tyler Freemans of the world, little Troy Johnston, maybe some Edward Julian in there. But it's a fairly low-end Rocky squad with plenty of strikeout available for him. So throw the value dart on DraftKings, see what happens. He's expensive on FanDuel, probably going to be pretty low-owned. A hedge with a few Rocky stacks wouldn't be inappropriate, especially if you get out of control with Grayson Rodriguez shares. Jake McCarthy at 33.28, just another outfielder ultimately, but 164 pretty good plate appearances this year, 110 WRC plus. The overperformance is indicated by the 350 weighted on base and a 323 xWOB under the surface. Freeman is just a decent hitter for average, gets on base, finds some stolen bases and some correlated scoring along the way. Hunter Goodman, you're just looking for the big batted ball event, 14 home runs on the season. Troy Johnston, a little bit of ability to hit for average, get on base on display right now, over 207 chances. He's been good, but the xWOB tells us he's probably going to come back down to earth as well. Not a ton of premium contact going on in his game. Willie Castro, solid mixer, utility type player, a lot of positions available for cheap on FanDuel. 38 is probably pushing it for Willie, but plunk him at second or third is doable on DraftKings. Tovar, solid for power upside as a dart throw, 5.79 in the home run model, nothing special. Has hit for more power than he has so far this year in seasons past, but there's tons and tons of swing and miss in his game that if Grayson Rodriguez is on, maybe he's able to exploit a little bit. Edward Julian draws walks, gets on base, hits the ball hard, sees no good results for it. He's better than his numbers. I continue to believe that, but you're just throwing darts at second base if you're going down to the bottom of the Rockies lineup. Sterling Thompson, Kyle Karros, mix and match pieces. The team we actually want to talk about is the Los Angeles Angels here. Again, 4 guys above the magic number and several points above the magic number. Significant upside for power from the home run model from the game sims. We missed Joe Adele yesterday, but we got some power output from this team. I love going right back to the well. Adele was the pick from this team yesterday, or for today, because he missed yesterday. Like I've said in the past, I do that a lot. If the main guy misses and he comes back in a good situation the next day, I tend to pick him as the pick from the team. The overall home run pick of the day did not come from this team. I haven't mentioned because we haven't gotten to that game yet. So hang in there. By the way, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel. It's been a minute since I've said that. Rotoscouts.com for anybody unfamiliar. Scrolling across the bottom of your screen all show long is a promo code, Cubs win, all one word, capital C, capital W. That gets you a free first week, no commitment necessary, no nothing. It will renew at regular price after a week, but you can cancel it in between. So take advantage. Entirely free first week. That'll include your Stanley Cup starting opening game tonight. That'll include the NBA finals, all of the cup finals. We won't get to NFL in your free week, but hopefully you stick with us and see some weeks after that. Weekly, monthly, quarterly plans available. Everything is under $1 a day, all in pricing to access all four major sports. Zach Neto, 47-36. Sat yesterday. Don't know. It doesn't look like we got this lineup in yet. What was the issue with Neto yesterday? He was sick, right? I think it was just illness. Don't know if that puts him in our lineup tonight or not. Oh, no, that's right. Somebody else was sick. Somebody else scratched with illness. Neto has got into a collision over the weekend. So he's day-to-day. They're saying he's dealing with whiplash. So you might not see Zach Neto, actually. That would diminish the Angels somewhat. But you still have Ozzie Peraza, who will maybe see a bump, a spot or two up the lineup. You've got Vaughn Grissom, who fills in at shortstop as well on FanDuel. On DraftKings, you lose your shortstop from this team, but that's okay. We've got a few other shortstops that we've talked about. You might have Neto in the lineup. Hopefully you do. He's hit 10 home runs on the year. He's got a 14.79 and tons of power as one of the higher-end shortstops potentially on this slate. Mike Trout, fire away. 14 home runs on the board, a 15.71 in the model today. Love Mike Trout's upside for power against this pitcher. He'll be on base at least once, probably more than once, no matter what happens, but monster upside for power. Vaughn Grissom hits for a little bit of average when he's going right now, 238, 317, 381. Not great, but 3 home runs on the board. Low strikeout, medium walk, a lot of balls in play. They are fairly well struck. Not a ton of barrels, not a ton of actual power output in his game, but the ability to succeed because he can hit the ball hard and put it in play all the time. What is Soler? Just monster power upside. Wade Meckler's barreled a few balls. in a small sample at 27, 29. Maybe you throw in him as a mixer. Pair of home runs, 2 stolen bases over 29 plate appearances. Ultimately just a mix and match piece, though. Joe Adell has underperformed his power potential. He's got 9 home runs on the season. 338 xWOBA under the surface speaks to the premium contact we've seen from seasons past. These are good contact numbers, but they're not Joe Adell type. So love the ongoing upside for Adell to just surge and have monster weeks, monster games for us along the way. Last night, just 1 for 5, scored a run, drove one in. So not a completely useless day at the plate if you had him in your lineups at a cheap price, but not where we wanted him. Love his upside to get one today. Ozzy Peraza, again, if he's in the lineup, that is a kid who's been on fire anytime he's gotten a chance. 280, 341, 463 season so far, 7 homers, 7 steals. And entirely, that's not unrealistic that he would keep this up. The kid had a ton of prospect pedigree coming up through the Yankees system years ago. They just chose wrong. They chose Anthony Volpe over him. He ended up with these Angels and their reclamation project efforts. Reclamation. Bring back the California Raisins. Donovan Walton, mix and match. Logan O'Hoppe, very interesting. 2,600 on DraftKings, especially if he climbs the board. Like if we don't have Neto in the lineup, I could see them pushing O'Hoppe up a little bit just to exploit the power upside. You're just hunting for the one good batted ball event, wildly unreliable in everything else. Angels bats. Grayson Rodriguez on DraftKings. Grayson Rodriguez on FanDuel. Rockies bats. Don't play Tomo Sugano. Now we're at the game from which we extract our home run pick of the day. Dodgers coming in at a 4.91 implied total against Michael Soroka, who's been tremendous this year. 3.25 ERA, 3.42 xFIP, 3.52 Sierra, just kind of right in line, but hasn't been facing the Dodgers every time out. That could get a little problematic for anybody. 23.5% strikeout against just 5.5% walk. Has given up a little tiny bit of barrel rate, but it doesn't come with any kind of regular hard hit. 87.9 miles an hour of exit velo is entirely manageable. I believe in that home run rate. He's been locating very, very well and finding a little bit of strikeout with it, but it doesn't come with a lot of swinging strike. These Dodgers have plenty of patience in the lineup. We might have Soroka missing around the edges and then trying to correct for that and leaving one fat over the middle for one of these big-time home run hitters. So it's not a great spot to be Michael Soroka today. I think you knew that just by him facing the Dodgers. He is yet to face these Dodgers this season. A lot of success, but listen to this rundown of teams that he's faced, especially in the most recent ones. And again, I believe in Soroka. I think this is actually a good pitcher. And once upon a time was a top end prospect. But his most recent run against the Giants in San Francisco, against Colorado in Arizona, at Colorado, at Texas, which is targetable as we've talked about, against the Pirates. Milwaukee's a good team. That was a terrible day. So his lone bad start, as we've gone back in time over those 6 outings, an 8-run day on 10 hits over 3 innings against Milwaukee at Milwaukee. 1 home run allowed, 2 strikeouts, 2 walks. That could be the Michael Soroka we see today against a much, much better Dodgers team. White Sox, Blue Jays, at the Phillies, another good team. 4-run day, his other only blemish as you run back through the game log. On the plus side that day, he did come away with 10 strikeouts, one of his 2 10 strikeout days of the season. Probably less than likely to strike out 10 Dodgers. Team comes in with an 18.9% strikeout rate, some appreciably real low strikeout rates there. Not a lot of good arguments to be made for Michael Soroka. He's very cheap at 78, not so at 96. If you want to throw the dart, it's as a value on SP2 on DraftKings. Eric Lauer, I see no reason in the world to play. He did have a good start in his first Dodgers outing. Went 6, 1 earned run, 4 hits, struck out 4, walked 1. Did allow a home run. Start prior to that, his last one with Toronto, he gave up 3 home runs. He has 1 start out of his 7 that he's made this season. That's 7 starts and, 2 relief appearances as well in bulk relief, which was what he did against the Angels in that last one. He has 1 outing this year that he didn't give up a home run. Every other start or outing, at least 1 home run, 2, 3 multi-home run games, including the 3 home runs allowed in the last one. That's how you get to a 6.52% home run rate. Between him and Jameson Taillon, we have a massive amount of home runs that have already been hit against pitchers on this slate. The Diamondbacks could easily pay that off. They've got two guys above the magic number. They've got other guys hiding in there with a little bit of power potential. I love targeting Eric Lauer with Diamondbacks bats here. They come in at a 4.69 implied total. Even on a good day, if he's not giving up the home run ball, he gives up, plenty of fly balls that lead to those home runs, but he gives up plenty of premium contact. He doesn't really strike anybody out. He walks too many hitters. He's pitched to a 5.95 ERA and a 5.29 xFIP. I don't know why we're not more excited about this Diamondback spot. I think it's really interesting. Home run pick of the day comes from that team. If you're going to the Dodgers against Soroka, I think it's entirely doable. They're very expensive. Shohei Ohtani's always worth it. 10 home runs in a slow start for him to the season, but an excellent start for a human being. Andy Pajas has been excellent. 55, 38, 13 home runs in his season, 341 on base, a 359 xWOB under the surface to support the reality of everything. Freddie Freeman, incredibly low strikeout, high walk, a lot of premium contact. Freddie at 11.4% barrels, 46.3% hard hits. Both those numbers are higher than any of his marks over the last 3 years. Not at any point, but where he ended the years. 266, 355, 458, a little bit of an ongoing decline in the batting average. That's to be expected as players age up. But Freddie is every bit the on-base machine, the power bat that he's always been. And he's succeeding in plenty of ways. 373 xWOB, but tells us there's even more to come. Mookie Betts, solid for power output, over 112 plate appearances with 6 home runs on the board. Lacking in other departments, but we know Mookie Betts is going to be fine ultimately and belongs in lineups at 45, at 31 playing shortstop. Kyle Tucker's also been a disappointment so far. Massive upside, 10.71, one of two guys above the magic number, but this entire stretch of hitters is at or above, or at or around rather, the magic number. Above or around, whatever. Just reminds me of the sticker that's always been on dumpsters, at least in New Jersey. Do not play on, in, or around this dumpster. I've always found that amusing because typically they were at like parks, like right behind the baseball field. There would be a big dumpster. I guess that's why they need to tell kids not to play in it. Don't think I ever did. Tend not to dive into piles of garbage in life. Find that to be a pretty good rule. Will Smith, bottom of the Dodgers lineup. Yet again, low price, $3,900 for a catcher who's got a 14.1% barrel rate. All the success Will Smith has had over the last few years. I don't understand why he's so low priced every slate where you need catchers, but take advantage. 6 home runs on the board, great on base, 105 WRC plus, and a 386 xWOBA to make my point for me. Alex Call, Alex Freeland, the Alexes down the bottom of the lineup. Playable pieces. They're cheap. It's one way to get a little bit different and a little bit lower cost with the Dodgers. Either one of those guys could find success. Freeland, probably the higher end guy, comes in at lower end numbers in a larger sample than Alex Call does. Alex Call found plenty of success over time, but typically we want to get him against the lefty. Kind of just another outfielder ultimately. And now the Diamondbacks leading things off. Ketel Marte at 5,300, 3,400, 11.58 in the home run model. He's up to 10. He's been surging a little bit. 11% barrels, 44.5% hard hit. Looking a lot like Ketel Marte over the last 75 or so plate appearances, a lot more so than the first 170 or so. He's your home run pick of the day. He's up to a 200 ISO, 378 xWOBA, still gives him a lot of growth, room for growth under the 340 actual WOBA, but tremendous success so far, putting it back together. Love the upside for Ketel Marte. Love him paired with Corbin Carroll, or honestly in small stacks with two of the cheap guys. If you're going like a small 3-man, Gabby Moreno and Nolan Arenado, there's upside there. Perdomo mixes in. Everybody on the Dodgers, except for the Diamondbacks rather, except for those top two, pretty damn cheap, especially over here. Very usable pricing over here too, though. They're an interesting team for all their upside today. Carroll hit 7 home runs, stole 7 bases, excellent slash line. Continue, as I've said many times already, to believe that we don't reach the previous home run totals, but everything is perfectly fine otherwise. Absolute priority in this lineup. Perdomo is the guy that's the major question mark. 221, 329, 344, just a 93 WRC plus, a league average xWOBA with an underperforming actual. Lost his premium contact upside, didn't have a ton of it to begin with, but he's looking a lot more like this guy than he is last year's guy. The difference was ultimately a few barrels. Got him to 20 home runs. Saw tons of success for correlated scoring with that 389 on base, but was just in the right spot tons and tons of times. Drove in 100 runs last year. A lot of that's happenstance. A lot of that's out of control. He also made 720 plate appearances last year. This was just a much better bat. Had a 370 weighted on base last year, 356 xWOBA. But you can see some overperformance there, but nowhere near as dramatic as this year's decline has been. But was that just one outlier year that's going to be the best of his career, and ultimately he's just a guy who can get on base like he did in 2024? This wasn't a bad 388 plate appearances. 101 WRC plus, slightly above average, and an excellent on-base percentage, good batting average, but didn't hit for any kind of power, wasn't driving in any runs. A lot of those games were from down here in the lineup. But he was just a guy who could get on base and scratch out a run here and there that season. Does he go back to that guy, or is he really this guy? Big question for the Diamondbacks going forward. He's incredibly playable at short, though, for us, because he's only 41, 3,000. Fire away. Even if he's just the guy who gets on base, if he's hitting third, that's perfect. That just totally works. So no issues with it DFS-wise. Gabby Moreno at 37, 28, a very interesting catcher. 3 home runs, 3 stolen bases. Just at 319 on base right now, but he's capable of drawing more walks than he's been at 8.1. He did last year, did the year before. So a little bit of upside and solid 11.6% barrel, 43.2% hard hit. Gabby can draw a walk or hit the ball hard for you. Nolan Arenado, talked about it yesterday, how I'm not on board, but I'm at least intrigued by at least giving me the opportunity to figure out how you're getting away with this, because the swing speed is slowed from the already concerning slow swing. The barrels are up a little bit inexplicably, but the hard hits are down. The frequency is down. I think it's just this ballpark that's really helped him out. If you look at the home runs, road splits, it supports that. He hit his 8th home run of the year last year. First one back on the dynasty team. I told you yesterday, I picked him up off of waivers. He's had a really good year. Over 203 plate appearances, 270, 350, 466, 8 homers. Solid 358 WOBA with a 331 xWOBA that shows a little bit of my concern under the surface. But this is a at least better version of Nolan Arenado than we had last year. It's at least reminiscent of the guy that he once was, for very different reasons, I think. But we also don't have swing tracking for a lot of those years. So maybe this is just where the swing always was, and he just was able to succeed with it. And he's been able to find it again. He's undercutting the ball, getting under a little bit more, hitting the ball in the air a little bit. It's where some of the home run upside has come from. And again, this ballpark's supporting his offense. But he's in this ballpark tonight. He's going up against a lefty who's been one of the most gettable lefties in baseball tonight. Consider me enthusiastic about Nolan Arenado today. 5.70 in the home run model. I was that close to making Nolan Arenado the home run pick of the day, but everything I said about him at the beginning of the season still stands. So I can't so quickly compromise my position and do that. Ildomar Vargas, everything I said throughout the season about him being terrible and nowhere near the hitter that he showed at the beginning of the year remains true and is already starting to appear in his numbers. Just skip him. 4,000, 3,200. You're still paying too much of a tax. Every now and then he'll break off a decent game even as he declines, but he's not that guy. Ryan Waldschmidt is an interesting mixer. 8.2% barrel in 82 plate appearances. Decent slash line so far. 5 steals. That's a kid finding himself in the show. Needs to start driving the ball a little bit more regularly. Find a little bit more success for extra base hits. Hasn't hit a home run yet, but has those skills, and they'll eventually emerge. Jose Fernandez, mix and match guy. Tommy Troy, mix and match guy. Dodgers bats, pretty close behind him. D-backs bats. Soroka wouldn't play Eric Lauer. And Soroka, again, tall order for him today. Then we get to the final game. Just 6 2/3 so far for Jonah Tong. He's making his first official start, at least as of last check. Oscar Brazoban is going to open tomorrow, I believe. First 2 outings were behind an opener, 3 2/3 last time against Cincinnati. He struck out 1, walked 4. No earned runs, but 1 run allowed on 3 hits, faced 19 hitters. Faced 9 hitters in 3 efficient innings against Miami as a bulk reliever. In his first appearance, struck out 2, walked 1, and was out of the game. I gave him 4 and change. I don't think we get much more than that. That's why I'm concerned even at 55 that there's not a lot of ceiling here. Maybe he gets us to the 11 and change points, though. If that piques your interest for 55, it's probably around your ceiling. You know, call it a 15-point ceiling. I don't even really want to do that. 15 for 55, I know obviously would be great. So I don't love that. On the Mariners side, though, Logan Gilbert, 9,000, appropriate. 10,000, fine. One of the top projected pitchers of the day, 68 in the third over 12 starts, pitches deep into ball games, 25% strikeout, 5.8% walk, a solid 12.3% swinging strike rate. We know he can go find a little bit more strikeout potential. This Mets team comes in with a 21.9% strikeout rate for this projected version of the lineup. So far against righties on the season, 1,100 and change plate appearances for the active roster, just a 91 WRC plus, an atrocious 297 weighted on base. These Mets have been bad this year. I think they're better ultimately than they've been. You've got a deadly good Juan Soto in the middle, a terribly underperforming Bo Bichette, but then it is just kind of a collection of guys. Like, we like Mark Vientos around here for his ability to hit the ball hard, but hasn't been anything special and certainly not at all what you call a reliable hitter. Jared Young seems like maybe he's interesting for DFS purposes. He has been. We talked about him yesterday, went out and hit a home run. 42 plate appearances have been pretty good. Some good batted ball events over his brief history in the show. He's very, very cheap. He's just a moving part when it really comes down to it. AJ Ewing's a top-end prospect for this team. He's had good 78 plate appearances so far. He's stolen 4 bags. 83 WRC plus isn't great. He's had some good batted ball events. Not really, really popping, though. 33% strikeout in the small sample, but an 11.5% walk. Probably needs some development time. Brett Beatty, interesting enough with the 8.1% barrel rate, but ultimately mix and match level talent. He had a good year last year in 400 some odd plate appearances and 18 home runs, but everything else was up and down. Strikes out a lot, doesn't draw enough walk. Marcus Semion's just been completely lost at the plate all season long. At least has an 8.7% barrel rate. That's the only thing I'm willing to give him. He's hit 6 home runs, 5 stolen bases, 80 WRC plus. Has clawed his way to a 323 xWOB. I'll give him that too. That comes against the 281 actual. Luis Torrens just kind of a mix and match guy. Your focal points are up toward the top. Carson Benj at 35.29. Up and down start, 248, 312, 351, 4 homers, 9 steals. Some good fantasy days in there. 338 xWOB is interesting. The batted ball events are interesting, but the reliability definitely not there. You're throwing darts. You definitely play Bo Bichette for the idea that he eventually finds form. He's only 2,700 with third base eligibility on FanDuel. That makes him interesting. Shortstop, I like him less, but at least he's very cheap. DraftKings at 43, he's discounted, but not what I'd call cheap. Certainly not as cheap as 27 on FanDuel. And only shortstop over there. 2 problematic things working against Bo Bichette. So maybe it's just a Soto one-off. 13 home runs for the man, 388 on base, a 418 xWOBA. He's just one of the best players in baseball. But yeah, Logan Gilbert in a big way. I'm interested. We'll have some. Going the other direction, again, we're really not taking Jonah Tong here. I think we can maybe target him, but the ballpark works against Mariners hitters. Tong does have some talent. He's a relatively high-end prospect. So I don't love the Mariners. They don't rocket up the board. They don't show great numbers for power. Julio Rodriguez at 9.99 in the home run model. He's at 12 on the season. You've got a 5.65 going to Luke Raley, who definitely has more power than that might be showing. 13 home runs on the board. Excellent premium contact numbers that are sustainable over time if you look back. He's just okay at getting on base, but a 341 on base right now. 389 xWOB under the surface, a 159 WRC plus. Luke Raley, probably their second most interesting bat behind Julio right now. In between those two, you get Josh Naylor, you get Randy Arozarena, 2 all-star caliber talents when they're going right. 6 home runs apiece, dozen stolen bases for Naylor, 17 for Arozarena, 333 and 340 xWOBas, supportable upside. Cole Young, more of a mix and match infielder. Dominic Canzone, Mitch Garver, and Colt Emerson, all probably more interesting than Cole Young, regardless of batting order. 7 home runs on the season for Dom Canzone. He makes contact that is somewhat similar to Luke Raley. Those are 2 interesting outfielders. People are probably going to go to Raley a little bit more than Canzone, despite the price difference on either site. You can have them both, obviously, on both sites. You get the interesting wrinkle with the first base eligibility on Raley on FanDuel. Just makes for creative constructions, especially on days where Naylor starts getting popular, but like Raley's a little bit less popular and then Canzone's even less, and you don't want to overload the outfield. Sneaking Raley into first base, forgoing the Naylor share, and getting Canzone in with other, like say you wanted to stack them with the Angels who have 3 go-to outfielders. Just makes it work a little bit better. Garver, the ability to put the ball on the bat on ball squarely from the catcher spot for a cheap price is always valuable. 54.2% hard hit. That kind of jibes with previous season's numbers. 2 home runs, otherwise terrible. in terms of the slash line over 91 plate appearances. He's better than that, though. And then Colt Emerson, their big-time prospect, has hit 3 home runs in 50 plate appearances already, including, I believe, one last night. 250, 340, 568. Just starting out with both feet firmly on the ground at third base, 3,600, 3,000 with shortstop eligibility too on FanDuel. Honestly, he's talented enough. You can play him at either spot. Eventually will climb this lineup. Logan Gilbert, Mariners bats, Mets bats. I don't think Ton gives us enough, even at 55. I'm skeptical. LSU for life likes the Rockies to smack Grayson Rodriguez. I wouldn't be shocked. He's going to be erratic as he just reacclimates to being a major league pitcher. They're going to be bad days. That's one of the lowest end lineups in baseball, though. It's a fantastic target for him. And he worked 5 2/3 and 5 innings in 2 of his last 3 starts, or 2 of his 3 outings this year. So I think the depth is there. He's got the ability to find the strikeout. If he can get around 100 Goodman, you take a lot of power concerns out of the picture. I think he's teed up to have a great shot at a really strong value start. But in no way, mark my words here, in no way would it be at all surprising if the Rockies had a decent enough day to ruin that value play. I'm not saying they're going to, suddenly have a 12-run day and be at the top of the DFS board, but they could definitely ruin Grayson Rodriguez's day. There's nothing secure about that play. Cap says he likes the Stros tonight, but he's got issues stacking. I like the Stros tonight. I think that's a good spot. Yeah, John, we talked about it. Judgy day-to-day with right shoulder soreness. They're calling it a bone bruise, apparently. Pirates, yeah, Christian Walker surging this year. Again, as I said when we blew through that spot, lowering the strikeout rate, which had gone up from 17 to 19% for multiple seasons in his best years with the D-backs. Last 2 years had gone to like 22, and then last year really spiked up at 28%. That's back down at 19% this year. So he's just putting more balls in play, and he's hitting them really well, and he's found the home run stroke again. It's the idealized version of Christian Walker. We're back to the good version. Maybe it slips. Maybe he loses it again. But right now, he's just kind of reached back in time and grabbed that approach again. It's been made significant uptick. Anyway, that was your last game. 2 hours 20, but makes more sense to do 220 on a 11 game day than it does on like a 4 game day like we did a couple weeks ago. Man, I've got like 30 texts during this. Got MLB alerts. My phone has been blowing up. I don't know what's going on. I got to go find out. Probably just everybody letting me know about Judge. Anyway, no questions going on in chat. Somewhat quiet day in chat. A lot of people here hanging out. We appreciate all of you. As mentioned several times, Rotoscouts.com, HotWings.com, Rotoscouts.com. MLB, NBA, NHL, and NFL, all under $1 a day, all in pricing. That's for all of it. No per sport fees. It's all of it. Every single main slate for NBA, for NHL, every single main slate for MLB, plus a lot of ones that I throw in for bonus, early, late, etc. type slates. Every single football game gets projected. Main slates, side slates, Wednesdays, Thursdays, Mondays, whenever they want to have football. Wednesday night opener this year. Weird. Jermaine, who's my favorite single entry DK DFS? My favorite what? Pitcher? Stack? The top stack of the day just goes to the Dodgers. They're just set apart from everybody because of the absurd depth of this star-laden lineup. So, take them, put them off on the side, a little bit separated from everybody else. Let me go to the stacks board. Stacks board's up on the website. To round off the point I was making there, though, promo code CubsWin, all one word, capital C, capital W. Get yourself a free week. You can go check out all the tools and look at all the data. Use the projections to your heart's content. You'll get NHL tonight. You'll get NBA throughout the finals. Baseball every single day. So I expect they're going to be somewhat chalky, but absolutely love that Angel spot against Tomo Sugano. That is a launching pad of a spot. So going back to the Angels makes a ton of sense to me as far as like a top end DK stack. They're on the stacks board number 2 behind the Dodgers for projection, number 2 by value. It's actually Kansas City popping the top value number. They're doing that from the 5 spot by projection. I like them on their side of that game against Andrew Abbott, but actually Cincinnati ranks out slightly higher. 3rd by projection, 4th by value. Either one of those teams, though, solid Vegas totals, solid opportunity, great ballpark for hitting. So if we're talking stacks and we're not talking about the Dodgers who just beat everybody out to the top of the board, and by the way, that is a great spot. You can go to that. But they're facing, out of this group, they're facing the best pitcher in Soroka. But accepting the Dodgers, I'd say Angels, Reds, Royals. And then if we want to differentiate maybe a little from the field, I think the Diamondbacks are really interesting against Lauer. Hopefully slip through from a few spots further down the board. Again, Ketel Marte, home run pick of the day. The Pirates are right there with all those teams as far as how they rank, but they're a little bit more expensive. They're a little bit behind the Reds and the Angels, 1 spot above the Royals. And I think they get buzzy and I think they get popular going up against Burrows there. So like they don't really land for value anymore. They're going to be a team that people go to without getting the value plays now. Like when they were popular but had cheap pricing and significant point per dollar value, you could still use it. Right now they're just kind of solid mid-board as far as value goes. Wouldn't surprise if they put up a big day. Wouldn't surprise if they bent the slate for DFS scoring. You definitely want them in a full portfolio, but one entry, single entry like that, favorite, I don't know that I use them just because I think they'll get a lot more popular than at least one of those teams. I think the Angels are probably popular. The Reds and the Royals probably come up less popular than they ought to be. I hope that the Diamondbacks get sneaky. And then I would throw the Astros into that conversation as well. We're talking about, obviously, that's like the top 7 teams on this list now. But there's, some back and forth to like what you're specifically looking for. The reason to throw the Astros in, they rate out basically the same as all those teams, and they land number 2 by value on the DraftKings board while being number 6 by home runs, 7 by Vegas total against Bubba Chandler. So they're a mixer as well. But I think you can tell from that rundown like who my actual favorites in that mix are. And you wanted pitchers, of course. Cap says, if you want to get off the wall call, get a tribe stack in New York and play 2% in case those young kids, Bazana, DeLauder, Manzardo, wake up super wild card. DeSlaughter. I like that. Super wild card stack. Ooh. It is a super wild card. I'll give you that. And you name 3 talented kids who I believe are good. And you name some lefties who I believe can target the right field porch. It's just that standing in their way is Cam Schlittler, who's been spectacular. So it's difficult to endorse. They've got a sub-3 total for a reason. But yeah, that'll be super contrarian. And you name 3 of the right guys. The other one would be Jose Ramirez, and then whoever you want, Rhys Hoskins probably. All right. So going back to that question and doing pitchers on DK now, we'll do a little show summary here. High danger Grayson as your SP2 of the day. Going up against that Rocky should feed him plenty of upside. That is a high danger spot, but a potentially big payoff. I expect he gets popular for that money. If you want to go around that spot, you don't believe in Grayson, you believe in Colorado, or you don't want to go with the field on popularity, Dustin May sitting right there at 6,800 against the Rangers is also really interesting. I would avoid these guys from the bargain bin, but if you absolutely had to go even cheaper, I would probably take Gage Jump with the wind at his back for 6 over any of these options. Top of the board, either of these guys, super spectacular. If you can afford them, do so, especially in one lineup, even if they're popular. Get different in different ways. Gilbert and Evaldi are both reasonable alternatives. The fact that Gilbert's a little higher for a little bit less money going up against the targetable Mets team with the ballpark on his side probably gives him a little bit more, despite being basically the same projection. So I'll lean toward Logan Gilbert if we're taking a little bit of salary relief with our SP1. I think that makes a lot of sense. These 2 guys, though, are, if you can afford them, go there, right? Then it's here. Evaldi would be right next to Gilbert in that rundown. I don't love this. I think him being more expensive than these two guys changes that conversation. I believe that the 3 points of separation there in projection makes some sense, and just a lower ceiling overall. He's been excellent this year, but I do think you're paying a tax on talent there where you're paying a tax on multiple years of talent with these two. No. Okay. If you had Kevin Gausman at 87 as your SP1, I don't think that's too bad. If you need to take the discount from even these two for your SP1, I think I'd rather have Kevin Gausman for 87 than Bryce Elder for 82. High danger spot, though. And that's like your last true SP1 on the board. I hope that, I know again that I when I do that, I try and like give context rather than just naming, like, it's very easy to just say Cam Schlittler. Who's the best pitcher on the DK single entry slate? Kyle Harrison. If you compare Cam Schlittler and Kyle Harrison, go do it. That answer doesn't help. So hopefully, weaving in some context around multiple options there as you go down the board is a little bit helpful to your process. That's what I'm trying to do with those answers. I'm not trying to avoid the question. I am enthusiastic about the bargain in Grayson Rodriguez. I have a lot of faith in all four of those guys. I don't like this one. I'm on record. I don't like that one. I'm on record. That one's fine. This one is your other, I skipped over Connor Prelip actually. It's your other very high danger spot of the day at a fair price at 7,000. There's a little bit of strikeout potential there. So, I jumped immediately down to Gage down there, no pun intended. There's $1,000 price difference between those two and very little point difference. So I think that still holds up. You probably go there for the additional bargain with the wind at his back before you go there, even though the White Sox are a lower end opponent than the Cubbies with no Murakami in that lineup. Good summary? Hopefully good summary. With that in mind, you guys, it's 5:37. Long show. Let me punch out of here. Let me get the site updated, rotoscouts.com. Go check it out. Point I was making before, free weeks, still free weeks up on the board for you to go take with no commitment. You just got to put your info in. I'm not sitting here trying to capture your info, by the way. The couple hundred people who have ever subscribed to the website. I'm not like going and selling that to telemarketers or anything. So whatever info you have to put in, just put it in and then delete your account afterward. It'll go away. It's not being saved anywhere, not using it for anything. All we're getting here is giving you a free week of time. Baseball, basketball, hockey going on right now. You get every single main slate for those. Tons of content, all this depth for baseball in an ongoing sense. But let me get out of here. You guys go check that out. Promo code is CubsWin, capital C, capital W, rotoscouts.com. Free first week on a weekly. Renews at regular price if you don't cancel. Hopefully you stick with. Monthly and quarterly plans also available. Good luck out there tonight. Somebody go win something. Been a lot of talking from me today. Somebody go win something and share those results when you do. I want to see those winning lineups. Cap says, sell my info to them and split me the money. Yeah, everybody else in the damn world that if you've used the internet, somebody's selling your information out there, but it ain't me. Share those results when you do at Rotoscouts on Twitter. Jump into our free premium Discord, which is linked in the description below, along with all the other site links, and hang out with the community. But more importantly, share the results. I don't even grab those and tweet them out like I should and congratulate people, but also promote the site. I just like to see them. Makes me feel better if I'm not succeeding. Hopefully I go win and one of you guys comes in second. Let's do it, gang. I'll see you tomorrow.